All right, we're like deep in a footwear conversation. If there's two conversations that we'll have, one is footwear when it's like when Bracken's involved, one's definitely gonna be footwear. The other one is gonna be like what we started with last episode. One of those two topics will definitely be covered when it's
Is either trash talk or shoes.
A dick talk.
People responded well to that, by the way, concerningly well.
Did they? Did you get messages about that?
I got a lot of messages about the dong talk.
I got none.
They don't want to go there with you, Bracken. Like, let's just leave this. We're not ready.
This shoe conversation started because Bracken accidentally bumped one of his shoes off the wall, and Bracken cannot progress with any conversation until the shoe wall is perfect.
Semi-false. The shoe was off the wall because I used it on the treadmill this week.
The Kennedy?
You did
no,
not.
No. I replaced with the Kennedy. I replaced it. I've got a bevy of shoes down here to replace here. Mm-hmm. Now, you name a sport running related, and I've got a shoe for that exact purpose. Test me.
I've never heard of somebody using a spike on the treadmill, but that's an interesting concept. Bracken and I have a conversation about our belts wearing out on our Nordic tracks. Like they're just slippery. But I bet if you put some steel spikes on and ran on the treadmill, that would create some good traction with those hole punches.
They make some with now, I don't know if it's Tough Treads or who. There's another brand out there. I'm blanking on them, but you can customize your belt. You can get track. You can get turf. You can even get one that has rocks put into there. Like standard, almost like a rock climbing rock, so that you have to run like you're on a trail. You can customize your tread on some of these high ends.
We're accidentally live again. Sometimes that happens. Today is one of those days.
I would get a turf tread.
Maybe the issue with the slippage on the treadmill is that you're using spikes on the treadmill, and that could be a problem for the other shoes that you then use on them.
I hadn't thought of that.
Potentially.
What would be funny about that is there is I don't know if you ever looked under the belt on a treadmill, but there's a very dense wood board underneath that you land on. And I imagine a spike would go through the belt into the board and then somehow just face plant you forward, or some sort of mess would be amazing.
It's like running on the boards back in the day in those indoor bank tracks, maybe in the Coliseum.
Uh-huh. Well, all I know is that we both are talking about getting our belts replaced, and if we're going to do that, let's set up like an Instagram live, have you put on your Kennedys and get on that baby, and let's just see what happens.
Let's just go.
Crash pad behind you.
What? Let's put in a half inch. Just go all in cross country style.
I am all in on breaking my treadmill appropriately, only through wear and tear, through proper use, because I have 2.5 years left of extended warranty on this thing, and I need a new treadmill. So I am just using it correctly. I'm not voiding any warranty by putting in half-inch spikes and running on that thing. Sorry.
Can't be culpable. Culpable?
Culpable's good.
That works. I'm working on my vocab. I'm using some SAT. Were you guys SAT or ACT?
ACT.
Yeah. I don't even know how to score that. So you don't have to tell me your scores because I won't understand. But the shoes I've been wearing for Hyrox is kind of where we were going.
Yeah, I'd asked.
I have a fresh pair of RC Elite 1s, which are stacked a little bit lower, have like kind of like teeth on the bottom, like almost like a turf shoe.
Why don't we just talk about them? Rich?
Oh, let's pull it up. Let's show it.
They have a actually healthy chunk, a slab of foam underneath, but they feel very low to ground because the plate doesn't have much curvature to it. So it doesn't feel as cushioned as they are. And it's tread though. Oh, you can see I took them on a trail to test them.
You sure did. Yeah. It's, they are 33 millimeters, where usually super shoes are going to be stacked like 39. So they're even lower than most. So they feel okay. You're not going to get great traction on polished concrete with those. So I don't think it's the ultimate option for Hyrox. It's
not
good.
Not
unpolished. That New York venue where not New York, Chicago venue where they're going to have the North American Championships, that will be a good venue for those. But most of the ultimate
sled push shoe.
Definitely.
But what they are made for is that Deca you ran on turf.
Yes.
That's what they're made for.
The New Jersey, Denver was also on turf. They are like it. It felt great on that turf. It really did. The Brooks Hyperion Tempo, I think right now is the best overall Hyrox shoe. It's just a safe bet. It has their They're super foam in at DNA plus bracket.
I think is that what they call it?
That may have been
Flash DNA,
something like that. They love that DNA. They love
Yeah.
the DNA name. They're going to stick to it. I could give you the whole
I'm gonna say DNA Flash.
DNA Flash.
Let's look that up.
Let's look it up. So it has that midsole, so it's like their nitrogen. I think it's a nitrogen infused midsole as well. And the grip on the bottom is favorable. It's not raised as high as something like off the ground as like the RC Elites, but there's like little grooves built into the bottom of the rubber. Or on these Adidas, they're like, they don't have these like little flex grooves built into the rubber, so it's more slick. And you know, it probably will respond well to the road, but the
so good on the road.
Yes, great on the road. And the Hyperion Tempo, they're not going to blow you away on the road, but like in a Hyrox, it gives you what you need. They're not stacked that high, and it grabs that carpet. And it fits well. They're light. They're about as good as a shoe, I think, that's available.
Bracken, what you were doing the live broadcast. I know, Rich, you were protesting, watching any sort of Hyrox content this weekend. So
no, I was on there. I just ripped off Bracken's coverage. We got to talk about this. At the end of the episodes of Bracken, we in for a watch along. I said, I'm in. I said, let's do it. And then OCR report comes asking.
Whoa, you're already twisting the facts.
No, not how I see
Kirk
it.
said I can't do it. Jack said I can't do it. I said I'm in, and you said, yeah, I might be busy. We'll see. You invited me to something, and I even commented on it that you weren't in on yet.
I wasn't out.
All right, continue. Continue from there.
And I get a message from Magida. It's like, hey, you available to do some commentating? I was like, yeah, we were planning on doing some sort of watch along, whatever. And then I'm like trying to see what's going on. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Kent is in my spot for that. And I'm just like completely out. And Kent, he reached out to me for a watch along. He's like, hey, can we do a watch along? I said, yeah, absolutely. Might be painting, but I'm in. Like, let's do it. And so all of a sudden, my two homies who I thought were going to be there, I thought it was going to be me, Dylan, Bracken, Kent, going to be a real nice time. All of a sudden, it was just me and Dylan. Brought on MBD. He came through. Brought on Greg. I think Greg's last name's Williams from Rock's Life. We were good.
Wow.
But so there were two there were two watch alongs.
Theirs was more official. They were probably all buttoned up. Haven't watched it. Don't want to hear them.
It wasn't a watch along. We were the official stream.
That's what I said. We were a watch along. Ours was kind of like.
That's why I was confused. I didn't even know we had a watch along that was officially booked. Well, I mean, I was unavailable anyways. I was celebrating late Christmas at home, but wow, content every direction.
Yes. So, but Bracken was like, nah, I'm good on the Race Brain feed.
Can we fit?
They said, oh, what are you thinking for a booth? Kirk was already out. And I said, Rich Ryan, Jack Bauer, Ryan Kent has already said he wants to do it. And Callie was going to be a part of that. 4 names were submitted. They immediately just lopped you off. Then Callie got the axe next.
I'm used to it. This is just my life now.
Like, every time I put you in, I put you in the
It was political, I think. It was definitely political.
Seems like it.
Will's like, is that douche who stood us up in Blue Mountain? Yeah.
I actually did talk to Will that day. He's sour because the Padres got whooped by the Phillies. So I think that's his main thing
that's probably it.
That he's worried about. But I did have a conversation with him. So I think he was saving face. So I wouldn't be super mad. I'm a little mad, but I'm not super mad.
Callie really loses out here. Did you bring her on the watch along?
I did not.
She's the only one that totally lost out. And I put that on you.
That's on me.
Yeah. Yeah, you were like, oh, I'll take anyone. Matt P. Davis. Some other guy.
Some Brit.
Not Callie.
Right. Hey, let's move on to the next one. Because I want to finish that shoe conversation for selfish reasons. I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking. Inquiring minds. I'm asking for a friend. So
this one a lot right now.
So if you're gonna pick your top 3 right now off the shelf, pick your entry point hybrid shoe, like the safest bet, let's call it, for anybody. We were talking about the Endorphin Pro, which is a shoe I like on the roads, but I haven't tested grip. What are your 3? What's like your entry shoe, like safe bet, probably gonna work for everybody, and then give us 2 more each of you. And I want to know what you saw on people's feet at Euros.
Let's do each. Let's start with entry point. You go, then I'll go.
I think it's Hyperion Tempo. It's not really entry point. because it's a little pricier, but they've dropped a little bit.
I mean, safest bet. Like I think
Safest,
like
yeah.
you're going to get one shoe and you're going to risk it all and you're going to save your money and buy one shoe. What's going to most likely work for most people? That's what I want to know.
I think that or like a Pegasus, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe the new Pegasus, what's it called? Nature Turbo. It's lighter, a little bouncier, and it has that decent tread on the bottom.
Has it got that funny heel on it?
Probably.
So that's not great for like
not as funky.
Not as funky. The I would say entry point, any like standard trainer that's like has a fresh rubber on the bottom. Like you can be fine in anything that's like a regular trainer. Just
Asics gel, the DS trainer usually had some decent little bottom to it. Anything that's light and neutral.
That's a throwback. That was like one of the original one. Like
I wore that in 2001 and 2 in college for track workouts.
When they were sticking stability in every single shoe.
Yes.
That was like a light stability shoe. So you're like, great, I overpronate just like everybody else, but really not necessary.
I tempoed in that shoe. I ran my first trail race in that shoe.
So you're telling me Pegasus line makes a quality, lightweight, tempo type shoe that has decent grip on it?
For the masses. If you're used to running an Alpha Fly and doing stuff in
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it cut it.
Will not feel like a tempo shoe.
Right.
Got it. Okay. That would be my concern with it. Is there any place for a mildly treaded trail shoe? Like one that, like, for example, like my Hokas and Alls, that's a fast shoe to me. And it's got a little bit of bite to it, for example. And it locks my heel really nice. Is that really the right tool for the job? No, but I think it could work. So nobody's pulling those sort of stunts.
Here, I tried in Chicago in 2019. I wore the Evo Speed Goat because they were cushioned. I had a torn meniscus. I wanted the most cushion I could get, and they've got lugs on them. And I have never slipped as much in a race as with those shoes because those have like
the rubber doesn't grab.
No, it's not a grabby rubber. It's made for like gripping dry dirt and rocks and stuff, which it's okay at, but you get it on something like the carpet or the polished concrete, and it was actually slippery. I had the worst sled push in my life on that thing. It was not good. I think a lot of trail rubber is actually made for trail conditions and aren't as grippy indoor as you would expect.
Yeah.
And they'll be raised like the lugs, like I know you're saying like a moderate lug, but when it's less surface area, it's not gonna grab as much because they're raised up some.
Yeah, Hyperion Tempo, Pegasus Nature Turbo, something like that, I think is your best choice. You could even go with like a Nova Blast or something that from Asics.
I've been interested in some of those Asics. I haven't tried any of their newer shoes. Those don't have their super foam in it.
They have
Nova Blast
a version. They have a turbo something in it. Okay. They love turbo, just like DNA is loved by Brooks.
DNA Flash. I looked it up. That's what we're calling it. I think you're right on that.
So you don't like the Pro though, the Endorphin Pro?
I do.
I got a good vibe from that shoe when I've been wearing it. Like I think that's what I would put on my foot if I stepped in tomorrow.
I wore it for doubles with Callie, and on the female sled weight, it was just fine. But I put the RC Elite on and the Endorphin Pro on and did warm-ups in it in Chicago. And this was slipping on the pavement and just locked in on the sled. And compared to this one, the Endorphin Pro felt slippery on the sled on the men's weight, but felt acceptable on the women's weight. So for men's weight, I don't know if I could do those.
I could believe that. And I've seen people wear them. And if you're strong enough, I'm sure it would be fine. But I got some slippage even in the warm-up area when I was wearing it, pushing around the pulling in particular wasn't doing it for me with those because the ones that were rocked a little bit.
So this is an option here. This is the Metaspeed Sky. And if you take a look at their bottoms, they have slight ridges, but they have those holes opening in there. And those have the ability to grasp a little bit, but I haven't taken them on a Hyrox carpet yet.
I've seen those in a couple places. I'm not exactly sure how that will grab either.
Very stable. This feels like to me, it feels like a watered down Alpha Fly. Kind of feels like a stable version of the Adios Pro, which I think is a watered down Alpha Fly. Watered down meaning not so crazy bouncy, but it's bouncier than it is tippier. If that makes sense.
I like that.
Have we seen any vapors in the race? Is anybody good worn the vapors and done well with them?
Tiago wore them when he took third
I think
at
Martin
Worlds.
wears them. Martin Michelius. I
They
think
got
he
to be
wears.
real slick on the sleds. Like
Yeah,
real slick.
I've pushed them and it's not terrible. I've never pushed it on
The
that
pull
carpet.
is when it's bad.
Because
Because you get over your toes and you push down into it, and that's right where their tip is.
Yes.
And you kind of want to tip out over the shoe in that.
Yeah, you'd have to maybe like turn sideways or something to try to push it.
Yeah.
But then, and there's no lateral stability in those
No.
at all. That's the problem with these super shoes, right? Like they stack the foam under so high that they're bad around turns, and that they, since the foam is stacked so high, they try to save weight in different places. Like, so they strip down the upper, they take away rubber from the bottom. So they're slick and they're stacked and unstable. So we haven't found anything that works. We hold out hope.
Nike Zoom Waffle cross country it is.
I do like the Takumi Sen 8 a lot, and the 9's out now. When the tread is relatively fresh, I think it's as good as anything else you're going to find out there without being special.
Yeah, same thing. Like when it doesn't have those extra grooves in it.
It has, one side has a bit and the other side doesn't.
And those are, even though like this one side is like kind of diagonal, I think they're lateral, like lines. I guess.
They're just, it's like a design, just diagonal.
If they put little grooves in those diagonal lines or whatever, I think they'd be better, but they didn't.
Well, and that's the kind of thing, like just with one little Dremel tool, you can put little grooves in there.
Custom. This is where it's going, I think, Bracken. This is where you're going.
Well, this is what I did with the Endorphin Pros. I actually don't have the Pros up
with
here.
with the spikes in them.
No,
was that somebody you knew who did that?
No, I didn't put spikes.
There was, I thought, was it Rob that put like little studs?
I did that for him. I'm gonna show you what I did here.
Dude, you're a modern day like Bowerman with the waffle iron.
I'm a running MacGyver. So this is what I did. I took the back off of Waffle XC's, Kirk. See how I removed these off of there? And if you look up close, this is what the lugs look like. They're small, but they're pretty nifty. But they were smaller on the back. And I removed on the Pro, there's like an arch, just a thin line of rubber that goes up around it in like a rainbow. And I just took that little thin strip out and put one thin strip of teeth around it. And it only stuck out about 2 millimeters more than the rest of the shoe, maybe 1.5 millimeters. So you didn't feel it running, but on the carpet, it gave you extra teeth. And he wore that for Worlds and for his qualifier.
And won.
But it was in a groove, so I used that E6000 and it didn't peel out at all. So it was a minimal, like it didn't change the shoe at all, but it added just the carpet grip that you'd want.
This is your call. This is kind of how I think Ultra started this way. It was like a shoe, run specialty store owners just cutting and opening footwear to like make it a specific way. You're going to do this for Hyrox. You're going to sink all your money into it, and then it's not going to sell at all. So
it works like Ultra. I'll take it. Yeah, I think the Adidas with the little, if you just Dremel down a little bit of those grooves and from diagonal slices to every like 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters, there was a 2 millimeter gap, and that would give it teeth on the carpet.
So what are the shoes, if we're going to clean this up for the listeners here? So now we just muddied the waters.
That's what we did.
What would be give me two. You have two shoes. Just lay them out real quick. Which ones are you picking now? I know you kind of get hinted at it, but officially, what two?
Endorphin Pro 3 for me. I have two guys I work with have used it for Hyrox and have liked it. They added stack height, cushion. They made it a little less firm. And they added a little bit of lug on the bottom. Rich, I don't know if you're going to pull that up or not, though.
Oh, I could.
Because you'll be able to see the difference between the 2 and the 3 on the bottom. It's a night and day different shoe, but it's the same general feel, but with a little softer ride. So when you're doing 8x1000 on pavement, it's just not quite as punishing.
So Endorphin Pro 3 and what other one?
Hyperion Tempo.
Yep.
Hyperion Tempo. Like, I think that is just safe.
Deca, Hyrox, both same.
Not Deca. For
me, it's good on that.
I'm not saying no, but I'm wearing Takumi for Deca, without a doubt. Takumi Sen 8.
I didn't like them. I didn't like them on the floor. I thought they were a little slick.
You had the Adios, I thought, not Takumi.
I have both.
Which one did you wear on the floor?
I wore the Adios on the floor. I didn't want to risk it for the Takumi. That was world championship time. I said I'm gonna bust Ryan Kent's ass in the Hyperion tempo.
Yeah. Otherwise, probably these. I'm really liking these.
Say what you're pointing
Sky.
at. There you go.
A6 Metaspeed Sky. Or they also have the Edge, but it's a little harsh for me.
Oh, these endorphin bottoms look good. They're stacked pretty high though.
They're a big stack, but they're like these Skies where they're a stable, just like the pros. They're relatively stable. The 2s, the 1s, the 3s, they're all stable shoes.
All right, we could
pull them up.
We'll pull them up. We'll pull them up. I'll pull them up for you. Right. I feel like you have some sort of condition, Bracken, when it comes to footwear, like that. It just needs to be like talked about and thoroughly explored.
I didn't even start this conversation.
Well, it's not going to end, but I think I don't think that changes my take on your condition that you have here. I like this bottom.
This is what. Who was wearing this in the race? Sandbach.
He had like a bright pair of something.
They were pink. They were these.
Sandbach apparently is what it is.
Sandbach.
That stack height looks like, I mean, it looks impossibly tippy, but maybe it's just the design.
You sit inside it a little bit.
This all looks like some kind of like TPU netting out, you think? That might add a little bit of
fishnet stocking style.
Yeah, that might be add a little bit of stability without an incredible amount of weight.
2 different people I work with have worn it, and one wore it for a stadium as well, and said he did fine on the stairs with it. And that's all I need to know.
They still do stadium races?
I think they're called Stadion. You heard about it?
Stadion. I will not be in attendance.
Yeah,
when your athletes have a stadium on their schedule, you know, they'll send you their race schedule and they type it out as Stadion. I still can't type when I translate it to their plan to get there. I can't do it. I have to type stadium. Like I just can't.
Your fingers won't allow it.
No, it's just something about it really bothers me. So I got to write stadium still. Can you guys do it? Do you guys buy into it?
I can. I think I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
They changed it
to do it.
And it just so happened to kill the product. Like they said, we're going to make it a big thing. That year, they had 1 year of it being a slightly bigger thing, and then they just killed it next year. So if you don't care about it, just let it be a stadium again.
Stadium it is.
Bring it back to stadium. It'll resurrect the entire franchise.
Give me purpose in life.
So let's talk a little bit. We don't know where Jack is. Jack's just like, I'm good today.
Do we even have a message?
He said he's gonna be late, stuck on a call. That I don't know what that means, but he's doing like talking to his boss or something. So one thing we do want to get into the Hyrox recap, talk a little bit about my status because it's basically all we talked about last episode. Got some great love from you guys from the community out there, so I really appreciate the support. So I have like a little bit of clarity, not a ton of clarity, but some clarity on that. So we do want to talk about that, and then we'll get into the race a little bit. We're not going to do a long course, probably not. At some point, we will do a long course, but today,
we got to put a bow tie on that. Just we don't know when.
Yeah, we might have a time. We'll have some free week. But when's that first Spartan 3K? Maybe we should just do the long course instead of covering the Spartan 3K. What do you guys think? Just not even acknowledge that it is a thing.
Cool with that. They had that test event in Jacksonville, February
25th, 26th.
And then they have their first official is April 22nd. I have a 21st, 22nd.
In Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
Kirk, you gonna do
the
Jackson? Is that technical? It's in Boca?
I think it's in Boca.
Okay. You in for the Jacksonville, Kirk?
I don't know yet.
Come on.
Only because I go on a vacation and I leave that following week and then I'm gone for 2 full weeks. So I'm like, do I travel the week before a vacation?
That's
one of those deals.
Is a legit vacation.
Yeah,
I'm checking out. So I don't know if I'll make it. We'll see. I'm not thinking that far ahead yet. If I got my ducks in a row, then potentially. How about you?
Absolutely not.
I knew the answer to that. Bracken's in. Bracken said he'll be there. Definitely be there.
He needs Jacksonville redemption.
I'm 50-50.
Oh, you might actually go?
If I'm capable of running on that terrain without setting myself back, I'll be there, yeah. My intent was that would be my Spartan Rust Buster for the year. And I stated that months ago, and my body's taking a long time to get back to flat ground running.
Would you do 3K? Would you? Because they're doing a test run.
Yeah, but it's not like a trial run where, hey, come test this out. It's, hey, come pay $90 to try this out.
Come on. Give them your money.
They should cop your boy.
They deserve it. They should.
I did email. It never hurts to ask, as my mother said, and she is not afraid to ask for anything ever. And so I emailed Spartan Contact seeing if, what's the deal with the pro team? Do we still get any sort of privileges, or we got to pay out of pocket for the races like everybody else, which I felt a little sheepish asking, but I wanted to know. I said, is there any backdoor something that you're not advertising? That's what I asked.
How many times he's DM'd that?
It's an auto reply on mine.
Yeah. Were they like,
anyways,
who is this?
No.
Sure who we're talking
However,
about.
the answer was definitely a firm no. That we're all former pro team members are paying just like the rest of everybody. There's no backdoor deal going on, and maybe I took it as truth. So we got to pay for our races now, fellas. What a tough word, tough world we live in.
Count me out.
Maybe I should. Maybe it's a $90 investment in my future.
Maybe
go to the first event, do well in it. Get on the list for the real event.
That's true. I mean, you're going to be on the list. We got our guy on the inside pulling strings for us.
Listen,
probably not. He's going to be like, nah. I haven't seen in the last 2 or 3 years. He's going to have numbers. It's not going to work out.
He might just railroad me.
He's just going to look at the numbers and he's going to be like, this guy got fifth place
I went to
at Ohio.
For you. real calls like, listen, this guy he's washed.
He went to bat lefty as a righty and just didn't go well for him.
Yeah.
Or you.
Yeah, he called for the beanball is what he did.
Maybe if there was some sort of scholarship that you could get your hands on.
Oh, if I could get a $90 scholarship.
That could be something. So something we did want to talk about, we've been kicking around some ideas as to what we're going to do with the Patreon support that we've received. Thank you to all of our Patreon members who have been kind enough to shell out your hard-earned money to us. And so we've kind of been in limbo with like what we want to do with this. Like we seem to be.
Why don't we clarify really quick? So this Patreon money that we are receiving does not go into our bank accounts. It never has. This is always being reinvested into the podcast. So it's not like there's a direct funnel to each of our bank accounts and we're just swimming in Patreon money. We aren't accepting the money as profit or payment personally. It's all going back into the podcast. So I don't know if everybody knows that, but I just want to get that out there.
It's mostly just sitting, right?
It's mostly just sitting because we don't have a great sense of where to go with it. I mean, we gave Jack some support because he sounded so bad without that microphone. We're going to need to get him a new internet, the whole entire new internet. We're going to need to run wires to his house when the soil settles or whatever.
Just a transformer soil settling issue. Like the type you hear about.
But we just haven't really had anything that we felt was going to be really help propel the podcast. This podcast was project that we're working on to the next level, right? So we've kind of been in a standstill. Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, how are we going to really make this better? And we kind of kicked around some ideas about what to do, and there was nothing that really landed. So we've now been talking about how we can bring this money and put it back to the community in a couple of ways. And what we've landed on was kind of dishing out a Race Brain scholarship to people, to athletes who we want to see at events or who we think will do well in different events or something that will just help propel the sport forward. And I mean, and I think ultimately like what I kind of want to talk about is what our plans are for Race Brain, right? Like what is the goal here? Like I have a generalized kind of like mission statement, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Like what is the goal that you guys have like with this?
Well, I don't know if that's fair.
Which part?
If you have a written down mission statement and you're posing the question right now, we're not prepared. You at least read yours off and give us an idea of what we're competing against here.
Nope. Because you'll be like, yep, okay. You'll say, I like it. There will be no actual in there. There'll be no
I know what it says. You've shared, I assume, part of it.
I've given pieces, but
to propel our sport forward in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if that means reinvesting back into the athletes or the sport instead of paying ourselves, then that's what we're going to do. It's just the right avenue to do that. So I assume your mission statement is along the lines of propelling the sport forward, correct?
Essentially, like whatever is going to be good for the sport, what can we do to help it, whether that is through visibility or with just narratives that we can kind of put together to get people a little bit more engaged in the thing that we are so passionate about. And so that's kind of where this came from. Like, could this help this even more? Like, how can we help?
When you first proposed this, the first place my mind went was back 2 years ago, 2 years, 3 maybe even, to when they were going to host the first Abu Dhabi World Championship for Spartan Race. And VJ was talking about, I just don't even know. No, or was it Hawk? Either VJ, I think it was Hawk. Hawk was like, exams are right after that. I'm just graduating college, and that's a big investment to try to go over there. My thought was that would have been the perfect time for a scholarship.
Right.
You take a guy that you get on that course and is going to make a splash at World Championships, but won't show up without outside intervention. That's the time where you throw $800 or $1,000 at him in a scholarship form and say, hey, here's your ticket to go race. Go do it.
100%. And that's going to be the idea behind this in general. We don't have all the details smoothed out. We don't think we want to open it to like an application process. If you do feel like you're a worthy applicant, send DMs to Bracken Crocker, who will get back to you and will let you know.
That couldn't be farther from the truth.
So hold off on like really reaching out, because we don't know what it's gonna look like ultimately. But we do want to give it back to the community, to the athletes here, because the things we talk about are the storylines, are what's happening within the sport, are the athletes who are here, what the direction is going to look like. And I think that is just going to be a fun way to do that. So if you've been on the fence about helping us out on the Patreon side of things, now you know like that's where your money's going to go to. It's going to go directly back into the sport and to the athletes, and helping get more people to these events so they can be better, so they can be more fun, they can be more compelling, and that we can talk about it and you guys can listen to us talk about it. And
of course, that money will still go to anything related to us and recording the podcast to help the experience be better as well. So like, it's not, we're not just going to stop that. Like where it seems fit to help make this a better product, we're still going to hammer that.
And this might be a good year for it. This might be with the 3K. I could see a lot of people saying, I'm just not going to travel for 3K, but the sport needs them at the race.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to do it for Atkins.
No scholarship for Atkins.
No. We'll use it. We'll buy some of Lindsay's baked goods.
We could do that.
We're not gonna send the athletes who need help are open for it. The athletes who are just really good and like, I'm not gonna spend my travel stipends on this. And it's like, well, too bad.
Jack's here. Hi, bud. What's up?
It's been a day. It's been a couple days, but it sounds like you guys are revealing the details of the cool news that we've got for the patrons.
We talked about shoes, not about dongs to start. So now we're into business.
Awesome.
Speaking of dongs, I got to get my plug in here. I'm traveling.
Dong ratio.
No, but I'm traveling to Vietnam is the trip that Jess and I are taking. And do you want to know what they pay in? Dongs. So I'm talking about dongs all day, every day. How many dongs is that? What's the dong to USD ratio? So
give us a dollar to dong conversion card. How many dongs can you buy for a US dollar?
Like 60.
I prefer the term USD if you're going to convert.
Even better.
It's like 60.
If you get Kirk, if you were to exchange one USD, how many dongs would you get?
Probably like 50,000 dongs. It's a real nice setup.
It's a lot of dongs, dude.
That's why a lot of people
handle
move there.
Dongs.
So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I have an excuse for how we started last week's podcast, because dongs are on top of mind for me right now, guys.
Dong on the brain.
I had dong on the brain. So it's not my fault. It's a byproduct of Vietnam's currency.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sure.
You think you're going to be sick of dong by the time you're done with that 2-week trip, where you just be like, I'm never coming home?
Impossible.
Yeah, not happening.
So just overall, Jack, like if you want to chime in on here, but we've kind of touched, I know you're kind of coming in directly into the end of the conversation, but basically like consider helping us out on the Patreon end of things and knowing that it's going to go directly back into the community. Like the more support we can have from our listeners, the more we can support the athletes that are directly in the sport. So Jack, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we had a good discussion behind the scenes, and I don't know what you guys said on the air. I'll listen to it after and stuff, but there are a lot of movements and a lot of good causes in this community that we aren't aware of, or that would really benefit from having a little bit of extra support to get the ground going. And that kind of was one of the reasons we started the Patreon for us, because like we've done a lot through the years on various podcasts and through various methods. So it's just cool to know that people want to support that. But at the same time, it's like we want to support other groups that are out there. So I think that it's a really cool idea to sort of be like charitable for other things and have more World Stuff Is Mutter documentaries that come out and just support other good causes in the OCR community. And I think that a lot of people will want to see stuff like that. And I know that I'd chip in even if I am a member of the Patreon just to have this happen. So I think it's a really good idea that you came up with.
Oh, I guess, yeah, we could now donate to the Patreon as well. Maybe we should put it in there also. Maybe just the Rich's facial hair option, I think is going to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's going on with this too? Are you growing out like a winter do, or are you just giving up on personal hygiene?
Who?
Jack.
Me?
I've never seen
I
you
need a
this
haircut.
bushy all over.
I need a haircut so bad. I've been inspired by Kirk in the past. Just let it grow out.
Get that flow going.
You got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Red flow.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing Tamara sometime later this week to get a haircut, so I'll have a fresh look next week.
Faux hawk?
Probably not.
Okay.
I might get the Kirk DeWint Elementary School special.
Oh, I don't know what that is. With let's think, spiked hair, moose as the product with a mullet.
Didn't you say that you
steps.
had like some ugly mullet or something like that for a while?
Yeah. But you spiked up the hair on top. I had steps cut above the ears, and then the mullet down the back.
Ayla had her first wrestling tournament 2 weekends ago in the middle of it was up near Slinger, Kirk. It was
You're up there ways.
Yeah. I have never seen more mullets in the state of Wisconsin in one place than at this wrestling tournament.
Any she mullets, because those are the best kind of mullets.
Like legit mullets, because mullets are kind of like a cool guy haircut now that are like, I'm so cool, I don't really care what anybody thinks, so I'm going to do what other people do that also don't care what other people think, and now it's like a trendy thing.
Yeah.
Is it like that? Or people that are like, hey,
not in Slinger. It wasn't that in Slinger.
No, like you see the kid with it, you're like, are your parents like making you ironic or cool? And you look at the parents and it's like, no, because camel jorts aren't like ironic. That's just a way of life.
Yeah.
And you look at the mom.
Camel jorts in the winter?
Well, you're inside.
Oh, okay.
Camel protects you. Yeah. A decent amount of moms with mullets. Type moms who are getting down on the mat and shouting at the officials, at the referees.
It's like you're not fooling anybody. We can tell the hair on top of your head is short, even though it's still long in the back. Like we can see that, lady. Yeah. Anyways.
Do you guys remember rat tails? Was that a thing when you guys were in school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I transitioned from the mullet to the rat tail for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin, guys. I don't know if you've ever been.
Heard of it.
But it isn't Philly. It isn't Denver. It's Green Bay. So I was par for the course, guys.
A straight bowl cut for years.
And that's what I graduated to after the rat tail.
So what do kids in Wisconsin do right now with their bowl cuts when the Packers aren't in the playoffs and there's no reason to shave a G into the side underneath the bowl? I don't know.
Good question. All right. Did we watch the
Hold on. Sorry, not to
got more
direct. No, we don't have more about this, but I feel like you hinted at this in the brief intro, and everybody just wants to know the status update with you, Rich.
Yes.
Like we need to get to the status update with Rich. What's gone on since last week at this time? Justice for Rich. What's going on?
So I'm still not in, technically. What's happening now is, okay, so they had that top 30, right? They weren't going to expand outside of it. So there were 2 open spots in the Elite 15 for the North American Championships. Now they are allowing athletes who have initially declined their spot for the first roll down to accept. So there's at least one athlete who declined in the top 30 who is now going to come over to North American Championships, even though they declined for the initial roll down. So they might fill. There might not be open spots, but I don't think they're going to go beyond the top 30. So not good.
That's what Mintra hinted at in her interview with Matt yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever she had it. And I think it was Michael in 3rd place is considering coming over now. Is he one of them?
He's coming.
He wasn't supposed to. Yeah.
He's coming.
So that
originally planning that.
that's the example of a solution that doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that.
It's just allowing people to change their minds. I didn't want to go, but now I do. So let me in again. Like I didn't declare, but now I'm changing my mind and I want to declare. That's all that's happening.
Well, if you're Sand Batch, apparently,
Yeah.
he made a funny post. He's not a funny post, but he's like, I punched my ticket to World Championships. I'm thinking in my brain, he punched more than that. Did you catch that, Bracken?
Oh, the wall ball.
He smoked the rig.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Commented on that too.
Yeah.
What happened? I watched it. I missed it.
He came into wall balls, did a set of like 10 and broke. And we're like, oh, he's cracking. Did a set of 1 and stopped again, and then yelled and then punched the wall ball post in front of him. And we realized
it's like steel.
he had to have been getting no repped. We thought he was cracking. I think he was getting no rep.
No. Last year at the championship race, same exact thing happened. Was winning until the lunges, had a little bit of a mental fart in going into lunges, ran a little bit further, came back. Toby passed him on lunges, went to wall balls, did 20 wall balls in second place, and just walked off.
Right.
So I think he was doing the same thing. I don't think he was angry at his judge. I think he got
because he did 10 rest, 1 rest, and then went like 15, 20, 10. Like
I think he just talked himself into it. He could have finished last year. He picked it. He didn't even do 1 on the 1. He picked it up, dropped it. He didn't even do 1 on 1. I was like,
for me.
I was like, oh no, it's gonna happen again.
Either way, I've never seen it. He dropped it after a set of 1, roared, and
1's not even a set. That's a rep. Like
I was like, dude, just do singles, man. Just get.
It's obviously still a sticking point for the gentleman.
Yeah,
but he had the mental game to get back in it, and he held off Toby to wind up on the podium. And I think that's going to go such a long way for his psyche heading forward.
So he punched his spot to world. So obviously now he's probably looking at this North American list and being like, okay, is this the same exact race? Add Ryan Kent, add Dylan Scott. I could still beat Alex and Tim because I was right there. So he's looking at it like he can make some money now. It's pretty clear because the North American race, you add those 2, you take out Tobias. And then it's even worse of a field from, I don't know, 6 to 15. It's a worse field than what they're going to face the Europeans. He's like, cool, I'll go over there and get 5th at worst and make some money.
It's like no Richard Ryland, I'm in.
Totally. It's like this field looks terrible. I can go in there and do work.
I think that this is the equivalent of if someone who finishes in the top 10 in the U.S. National Series at any race like that, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to some race in Southeast Asia and just get an easy paycheck. That's kind of what it looks like because the talent isn't there, but it's because you're not allowed to race. That's the only reason why this is such an easy task, and we've gone through that before, but it's pretty sad.
What was the diplomatic process that you followed in the last 7 days, Rich? That's what I need to what attempts have been made. We saw Jack made a very well thought out.
Yeah.
And
I thought good traction on that.
Yeah, good traction on that. But what process have you followed, and what were the exact responses?
I basically emailed Minsha basically the entire conversation that we had, just distilled down a lot of hey, this is in your best interest. Hey, athletes depend on this. I feel like I've been a good ambassador. And she gave me I'll think about it.
So you emailed your one contact, the decision maker. Would she be or he be?
She would be the decision maker. Yeah, she's
she's the decision maker.
Who's
It'd be David Watson or
Watson
okay.
of Hyrox.
Got it. Okay, so you went directly to the contact you thought could make that decision for you.
And I got a maybe. Let me think about it. But then hearing her talk to Matt, and now that they're allowing athletes to come back and accept their spots, it's pretty clear to me that they're not going to go beyond the 30.
Was it dismissive, her response, or did you feel like you were heard?
I think she read it. I don't know.
Is that good enough?
Okay. Kent reached out as well to her.
She made a poor comparative, if I'm being honest, in her response.
Yeah.
What was that?
He messaged me. He's like, I'm talking to Minsha. I let her know the example of name another time where a national or regional championship has allowed other people to win it that don't live there. And she said, easy, US Open. He's like, what do we say to that? It's like, golf? or
is
tennis.
the U.S. Open, is it really a national championship? Or
I
is it
said
a
that
World
it's
Golf
right there in the
Championship?
name. It's the U.S.
Yeah.
Open. It's an open competition held on U.S. soil, and it doesn't determine the U.S. champion, and it doesn't determine auto qualifiers for a subsequent world championship. So name
It's a
it the
one-off.
North American Open, and
That's
your
what they should
problem
have done.
solved.
That's what they should have done.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like Watson comparing the 1K, 1K, 3K format to F1 racing. Like it's a comparison. It's just a bad one.
Well, the difference between the U.S. Open is there's no future ramifications. The event happens, it is done. People move on with no impact on what happens or what their choices are later in the year, right? So it's not. It's a bad comparative. But I don't know if we should be airing that laundry or not. That was kept private, but there it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Rich, in F1 they do qualifying laps. You basically get like a hot lap. You get a lap to warm up and go, and then you have a hot lap, and that determines who moves on. And it's a little longer than that. I don't know if it's like 15 or 20 minutes, but then they go do their full race. But race cars don't get tired.
They don't.
And race cars don't have fast twitch versus slow twitch muscle fiber. It's comparing apples to race cars.
So Rich, you
ahead,
saw the interview with Matt. Did you get the interpretation, or did you get the opinion that Mintra kind of realized they screwed up, but she was just like, this is what we decided before the season started, so we're just going to go with this throughout the rest of the season, and next year we might make some adjustments. That's kind of how she's like, we're just going to stick with our guns. This is how it is.
It's like we screwed it up. We won't say it in those words, and they made changes this year from the previous year, made it a little bit better. But yeah, it's just like they just didn't think about it. They just made and to me, it's just like a competency issue.
The only way that this top 30 system would have worked, and prior to this year, it was only in the US and Europe, would have to have exactly 15 US women, exactly 15 European men and women in the top 30. You need an even 15-15 split from each region. The odds of that happening with how much variability there is in courses, I bet if we look back at the results from previous years, there's no way it's that even. So this was doomed from the start.
Yeah. The real issue is that it hurts the world championship, because coming out of Euros where a bunch of people broke 60 and North American champs, not as many are going to. And if they do, it's the same people. That leaves very few qualification attempts left to even get to Worlds. And so it might seem like we're just going to bat for our buddy, but in reality, there aren't any more opportunities to really get onto the list. And so this decision directly determines who gets to go to Worlds, and Worlds and regional championships have clearly shown that the qualification system is currently flawed because people get in on the roll down and then win the race. And so that opportunity is being taken away right now. So it's going to directly water down the world competition level. And it won't be apparent on competition day, because if you'd taken Chris and you and Dylan out of it last year, the race wouldn't have been impacted because we wouldn't have known that Chris was going to win.
Right.
So it'll look fine, and they'll be able to say, see, we still had a great race. But the reality is that every time they've ever held it, an underdog won or went top 5, and that won't happen this year.
There was, so a friend of mine, Marcus Wallace, the most fit hybrid athlete in the greater Milwaukee area, sent me some stats.
Oh,
he crunched some numbers. He said the
You saying he's better than me?
Is that what I said? I just gave out
greater Milwaukee area. I'm sitting in it.
That's all I'm saying.
Where do you live?
63 minute Hyrox.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, we got a 13:38. Deca Strong. 38.
He did 13:38.
No, I thought that's what you did. What'd you do?
56.
56.9.
Should know this.
0.9. 56.9. I don't know what his Deca Strong is. Might be better than that.
If he's a 63 Hyrox, he's better than.
And he's like a power guy.
You're 66, right? Is that your best? The few
It might
attempts.
even be slower.
67. What the last question I have for you, Rich? I know you're going somewhere with that. Were you given?
I just wanted to mention that about the Milwaukee thing.
Oh,
I want to know the stats.
You just said he crunched some numbers. We're not even going to talk about
Nope,
the numbers.
He didn't send him any
I
stats.
just wanted to say his name and say that he's from Milwaukee. Go ahead, Kirk.
Well, no, two questions I had for you was, wait, did you finish your point? Maybe I'm really interrupting.
I did not finish.
Oh,
point.
finish your point first.
I got to what I really wanted to get to.
No, why don't you finish your point? That's my bad.
Okay. So, looking at the World Championship list now, right? Like the Thiago, I'm just going to use them as an example. And this is something that Mintra definitely ducked when Matt kind of asked her indirectly about, like, so what do you say about the athletes who performed well and have this fast time and then didn't perform well at the championship race? Like Thiago was the first ranked athlete with like a 57.40 and then he finished 10th, right? But his 57.40 will stand. He's going to make the World Championships because he ran this time on this course. It's crazy. We saw like he's 10th in at the European Championships. Like he's probably outside the top 15 if we put all the North American athletes in there as well.
And what was his time?
62-ish maybe.
Mm-hmm. So it was a 5-minute swing.
Yes.
And Megiddo went from essentially 60 to 60.
60 to 60, right. And
so it was a pretty decent course.
Yeah.
It was an accurate course, and there was a 5-minute swing.
These are the numbers that now I'm getting to. Well, that's just like a point, right? So like Thiago has a spot. Jonathan Wynn, who came in, like, I think he's 5th, finished 9th. He's like a 58. He has like a 58.30. Like he's going to be in, right? Mm-hmm. And then we've seen like maybe where their racing ability isn't where their seed time is. But these numbers said non-Frankfurt athletes average about 42 seconds slower than their seed time in this championship race, and that could be because of like the runs were kind of funny. Having the laps back and forth does play on some of the stations to make it a little bit slower. But the Frankfurt athletes were an average of 2 minutes and 48 seconds slower. So we can say from that numbers that course was 2 minutes faster. And those times are going to stand and be put into the World Championships. Almost 42 seconds and 2:48. Yeah.
Oh, you said 2:48. That's almost 3 minutes.
He's comparing it to the other German course. 42 seconds slower for one, 2:48 for the other.
Yes. So it's 2 minutes slower than what other courses have been run.
Yeah.
So like right there, it's like, it's like, and it's a small sample size, but still it's like significant.
And the response to that was?
Oh, he just sent that. Like there's no response. It's just an observation. Mm-hmm. And Mintra's response when Matt kind of asked her that was like, I don't want to disparage an athlete's performance. It's like, there's evidence here, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Mm-hmm. So let's not talk about it.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to take it, or are you going to make your own reality?
I don't think I can fight the fight to try to get into Chicago. It's been pretty discouraging, right? So I need to look beyond it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you guys, March 18th, there's 2 races. It's about 7-8 weeks. I think I can build myself into a really good spot for that because I'm going to need to do a time. I'm going to need to have to run 58 something. Mm-hmm. Dallas is that weekend.
Historically fast.
Yeah. It's a different venue than Hunter's.
New venue, is it?
New venue.
Yeah, historically low rock zone times.
Yeah. The one
different venue, I guess.
It's going to be a different venue. I think they've been to 3 or 4 different venues now in Dallas.
Yeah.
Or there's Barcelona that same weekend. And I'm looking at it. I went up on Google Flights and I was like, oh, okay. It's like $1,200.
What?
I was like,
Barcelona?
Yeah. In March or whatever.
Try
Denver.
Rich, wait,
try going out of Chicago.
Fly to a cheap area and take a train. Like
Barcelona, I was just looking at, is between $400 and $600 out of Chicago.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that could work.
Yeah. Chicago is always cheap from Denver.
Oh yeah, especially in the winter.
Yeah,
people don't want to go.
Your 50-round trip, you can easily get.
But I was looking at $1,200. I was like, what am I doing? Is this something that I really want? Like that I should do to go over there? Where like Dallas, that flight's gonna be like $300, and maybe it's a fast course, but Barcelona is probably gonna be fast. Historically, it's been fast.
Last year, it would have been a bit of a running the JV race kind of thing that it used to be, like running a Sunday race to get a world qualifier to get podium money. That's not the case this year. They made a set of rules that demands this type of action. So if you can look at what Dylan did and say, I can do that here on this soil in this venue, then it's cheap and easy. But if the qualification standard is most likely hit there, and if you hit the standard, you're also going to win money.
Yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer. Like if you are serious about this sport as a world champ in the sport, trying to double it, why wouldn't you go to Barcelona if you can find a decent flight?
Barcelona. I think
Why is Barcelona guaranteed
Barcelona.
to be a fast course? Is that, or have the right competition? I mean, this European Champs wasn't a fast course.
The sleds were fast.
The sleds were fast.
It was like very fast in the sleds. There was women under 2 minutes.
What do you have? 2 race weekend opportunities still? Is that what it comes down to?
I have 3. I have Houston. Domestically, I have Houston, which is soon. Then Dallas, which is about 7 weeks, and then Anaheim, which is probably 12.
Couldn't you race all 3 of those and probably come out the same as if just going to Barcelona and racing once, cost wise?
Yes, but course wise.
But don't you think you're gonna get? But don't you think one of those dice rolls is going to work in one of those 3 venues' favor domestically?
Maybe.
Here's the thing with. I understand your question because the European Championship just was not a fast course.
Right.
But what they did is they set up the World Championship style of venue where they have this lane-based area where you come into each time. And Vegas proved that can be really cumbersome to get in and out of. And then the runs become funky. So the sleds were very fast, but the rocks and the transition and the runs canceled everything out. But that's a one-off course. There will never be another one of those this year until Worlds.
That's for sure.
They've they've only done it twice ever, and it was at this championship and last year Worlds. They do it for
Orlando.
Orlando, did they?
Remember, it was a test run. We went to lanes. It was a crazy rock zone, but that was a small.
It was a small rock zone too.
It was a small amount of entry because it was still pretty COVID-y.
Yeah,
and
they did that for.
But like to run an efficient race that has a lot of participants in it, they need to have it where they go from burpee broad jumps to a row to a different place to farmer's carry so that they can appropriately stagger it. When it's in lanes, it will bottleneck.
Yeah.
So at like a regular race, they wouldn't do it. And that's why they're not having multiple heats of the North American Championship.
Yeah. And the reason they do it for the big championships is they set up an arena with the stands around it. And that itself makes it bottlenecks and hassles getting in and out. So they don't do that at any other venue because they actually don't want to block it off. They want it free flowing across the whole venue. So you have like a 90+% chance of getting a great course there. And you have a 50-50 chance over here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to your point, if you hit 3 venues, one of them should be fast.
That would just suck to just like see times at Dallas when I'm in Spain and be like,
Well, that's what I'm worried about. You're going to go there and it's not going to be what you're hoping. And it's going to be this big roll of the dice that doesn't roll in your favor, even in Barcelona.
They're more efficient. They're more. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, I was going to say maybe they find out you're going and they design the course to prevent you.
I'm trying not to take it personal, but I'm real close to taking it personal. So might happen.
So for the listeners to understand then just what you're trying to do here is what is your best Hyrox time to date?
60:35.
And you believe you need to run 58:30 to
safely
get in. So you need to take 2 minutes off your best Hyrox time in order to even maybe make the top 15 list to get into the World Championship. So that's what you're trying to accomplish. What we're doing is dissecting the venues in which he should use his efforts on. So that's a big feat, right? Do you believe you're in 58:30 shape if the course shakes out the right way?
I think I can be in that shape domestically, but it's like if I put it all together and really be dialed in for 8 to 12 weeks, I definitely think I could run that kind of time, which ultimately should be my plan. It's like, let's just really put myself in the best position possible fitness wise, and it should take care of itself.
If you still lived in Philly, go for it. Way logistically easier, but you don't. Stay domestic. You're in the middle of the country. You can get to these other races super easy. Just freaking race your ass off. One of them will pop. Call it good. And if it doesn't, you just learn from your hard lessons this year, and you never make the mistakes of not.
I don't have many years left here, man.
Yeah, you get plenty of time.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
So let's say you were training for the Olympics in the 1500. And they moved away from the current qualification system to this system, which is the top 30 times in the world get in. If you were coaching yourself or an athlete, the question would be, do I try to run it here domestically or do I go to Monaco? Knowing that everyone at Monaco is going to run 3:30 or under. Mm-hmm. I might be able to get in a race here. I might not. But you look in historically, everyone runs it at Monaco and doesn't match again anywhere else. What would you do?
Kirk, what would you do? Pose that to Kirk because he's on the other side.
Kirk doesn't have to do it.
Bracken's setting me up to just make the opposite argument of what I just made. It's obviously a rhetorical question. So, but that's not a guarantee. That's the thing. It's not a guarantee.
No, there's no guarantees.
There's no guarantee. The only guarantee is like getting myself into the best possible shape. That's the only thing that I can control.
Yeah.
I would hate to see Barcelona times end up like Frankfurt and be like, there it was. Like I don't like that. Last year, Cole qualified in Spain. Tara Jackson has qualified. Her faster times have been in Europe. And at that time, I was kind of like, I don't think I like that approach. Just like do it here. But now it's like, fuck it. Like if that's the way that they're going to do it,
it's going to turn into Ironman. You're going to have to go and run down like out of country to get your good fast. That's just what people do. Every year they go to and hit their same courses and they avoid the bad ones. And it's just what the sport is. If that's the direction it's going, then the people who embrace it quicker are the ones who are going to be successful quicker. And what's your time frame? How many years at the top do you have? Two, maybe. So I don't know if that strengthens mine or Kirk's argument more, but if you have 2 years, this can't be a wasted year.
I know. That's what with these qualifications are killing me. Jack, what would you do?
I look at it like you're rolling dice, which is more likely to, if you're looking for a 6, you roll it once, 1 in 6 chance. I'm
nice at dice though.
You roll it 3 times.
That's the most Phillies thing
coming up. You're nasty.
Catch me on CeeLo. Practice. Take that money.
Yeah. I think, getting race ready, like you're gonna, if you do 3 of these, like even if your first one you do 60 flat in Dallas and like you're right on the cusp, or Houston, and then Dallas you improve to like 59-30 or something, you get better with racing more realistically, and they are spaced out enough where it's not like you're gonna have to do that 3 straight weeks like Chris Woolley did last year to try to do it. And as they mentioned with the travel time, like it's a 2-hour flight to Dallas, 2.5 to Houston, Anaheim, you're 2 hours West Coast,
2 hours,
or you're looking at like 9 like in the air plus all the time changes and all this other stuff. Like I think that your best bet, it does stink that you're probably gonna have to solo this, because like who else is going to show up to these other venues unless you just have another Frankfurt equivalent over in Europe?
Ryland's got to.
Scholarships. Yeah, Ryland's going to have to. If Ryland might be like, fuck this. He might just be Jared if he's healthy.
Yeah.
But Ryland might be like,
yeah,
why would I do this anymore? Like, this is crazy. Like, should I invest in this sport?
When I make race decisions, a big part of what holds a lot of weight for me is what race can I show up and be most likely to feel good? Meaning, like, has the travel messed with me? Has the time zone switches messed with me? Has the food messed with me? Is the sitting on an airplane for that long messed with whatever? And in that decision alone, it's like when you go over there and you're gonna be 7 hours ahead?
I like tapas.
8 hours ahead.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to do that for England anyway, if I do qualify.
Well, right. Worry about that then. I don't know.
Yeah, I think stick with the U.S.
BK,
and
final argument.
You're mentioning 58-30 as your cutoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're mentioning 58-30 as your probable cutoff. So right now, the difference between 10th and 15th between Tom Hogan and Dieter Schwarzkopf is 27 seconds, from 59-32 to 59-59. So you got to get out of that cluster, because a lot of people, I could see some movement there. And you mentioned there are 3 more U.S. races to qualify. How many in Europe? I'm going to guess probably close to 10 or so without looking at the
12.
schedule.
Yeah, a lot.
So, yeah. So they have more opportunities. So I do agree that you're going to need to be 58X for like sub 59, because a few of those people, whether it's Tom Hogan or, probably Jeffrey wasn't like they'll
Holger,
probably move up a little
Holger
bit.
Kroner, he can pop one.
Yeah.
Thomas can pop one. Like,
yeah,
this is the crazy thing. A year and a half ago, we lost our mind.
He'll get an auto
broke
qualifier.
59.
We broke 58.
Yeah.
Oh, a couple years ago, you're saying, or less?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
you're gonna have to crowdsource.
Summarize. I think stick with the U.S. That's mine.
You're gonna need Dylan. You're gonna need Rylan. You're going to need anyone who wants to do it should show up to them. I think you need someone like Dylan, who's in shape, has shown he can do it, to be in the race and just set the tone. even if he's not even intending on doing much. But you're going to need 3 people in there.
Top 15 right
now. At Barcelona, you're saying, or
wherever. If you do anywhere. Houston, Dallas, whatever, you need 3 people.
In case one dies, you need the second. Look what happened with the Sub 2 project. It's like a couple people
those dudes died immediately.
But
then again, Dylan did his solo.
Maybe
that's even better for Hyrox.
Magita did his solo. Yeah.
The only issue is they're like marathons. They just take so much out of you physically and mentally to have to get up for that 3 times, knowing that your reward is you have to do it a 4th time. It's just it is a lot.
Overseas.
Let's
say you do Barcelona.
Barcelona?
If you do Barcelona, do you have another race that you could do in the US after that or beforehand, or like you're all the eggs in that basket?
So another option would be like Stockholm or I think Hamburg, like a week or 2 after Dallas, so I can take advantage of the domestic races. That's what got me thinking about it initially. So it's like I could run Dallas and then potentially do Hamburg in Germany 2 weeks later, like, and still have like a big build up to there, and maybe not get out in Dallas.
Yeah, they have a nonstop Denver to Frankfurt flight to Frankfurt on United. So that could at least get you in the country and then take a train, pretty low stress travel there, staying within the same country.
So that's another option.
If we were a pro,
I think what I'm getting out of this is Rich wants to do an international race.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I would much rather not. But
CrossFitters travel to Dubai. Yeah. Cyclists travel all over Europe. Track athletes are everywhere. Maybe you just need to act the part. Do you travel well? Maybe that Kirk's point is the biggest one. Are you going to feel good traveling and racing?
I don't know. I will do my best to convince myself that that's what's going to happen, but I've never done it. I've never raced international.
Do you want to know what I think would be a great indicator for you? Let's see how these Europeans coming over the opposite direction do in the US with a couple weeks in Chicago.
Then you'll kind of get compare me to them.
If they all crack 60, then we know that they're just that good.
Depends on what they take the sleds off. That's another thing. If they take that sled weight, make it a little bit lighter, add this much height on each pole, and say it adds up to 55 more pounds like they did at the World Championships, maybe they will run that fast. All right. Well, we'll continue this conversation. Let me think about it. You guys are my counsel. I appreciate that. Let's talk about these races a little bit. So, Kirk, did you watch?
I did.
Nice. Which feed?
Yeah. You don't know. I didn't know we had a race parade. I didn't know officially we booked it, so I just watched the LCR report.
Follow us on Instagram. Jack, did you watch it?
I watched probably 1/3 yours and then 2/3 theirs. I switched back.
I didn't watch it live either.
You started on ours or started on theirs?
I started on Race Brand. Yeah.
Oh, and you got off of it?
Yeah, there was
because MBD was.
But then I went back to. I went back and forth several times. I was very impressed with not being able to hear Dylan's bike or his heavy breathing while he was commenting. While he was on that, that was pretty impressive.
Dylan's like, I've been 2 hours into this bike ride. I gotta get at least another 2. So can I do a watch along on the bike? I'm like, sure, man, that works.
What kind of headset did he have that blocked that out?
I think it's just a quiet bike. Maybe that's where we should invest.
But you couldn't even hear him breathing heavy. Like, yeah,
the dude doesn't breathe heavy. So, what are some takeaways? Let's start on the women's side. That was the race that we were looking. That I was most excited about. There was 9 names on that list of athletes who we thought could take the podium. The podium shook out 2 of the 3. I personally wasn't counting on Lauren being in like peak shape, but what were your guys' takes on the race in general on the women's side?
Well, I posed
Lauren's
the question
really good, and she's
in the last episode
asking
if we've seen Lauren hit her old fitness, and we all said no, we haven't seen her do that yet. And then what does she do? I mean, that's as dominant as she's ever won anything that I can recall. against a field in which Meg was poised to go and sweep the floor with everybody, and that didn't happen. So it just, you can't say it was for lack of competition, because it wasn't. Sure, there was an extra lap in there, but Meg still went to 1. So
she could have won with it without that extra lap.
Regardless.
So.
And it also makes me think, watching Lauren, the way she ran this race, which we know she's aggressive, but she ran against some other aggressive racers and made them look like they were standing still. The way Lauren raced is not the way to run your fastest time. Yet she still blew them out. So that's what's scary about the front end of the results, in my opinion.
Yeah, and she's, like you said, she did it looking like she had her old fitness, running a slightly slower time. Like, she won by just force. She forced everyone to get so uncomfortable. She took them to the place of such little oxygen and energy that she was the only one that was able to survive in it. She was the only one with the survival skills to sit in that. We hadn't seen Meg in that place yet. We hadn't seen Michaela in that place, and Lauren lives in that place. So she won just by pure brutal force. And I think that's the scariest person to race against. I truly think that back over my entire racing career of both running it and watching high level and mid level and low level races, there's no one more frightening to race than someone who does not care about hurting themselves early in order to hurt you. Everyone knows we have to make some sort of commitment, and we are from the start going to be outside of our comfort zone or playing that wait and hope game. And she can't be at her best right now. So if she can do that now, did she just turn the female Hyrox world on its head in one race?
It was her best time. It was the best we've seen her.
I'm taking it as assuming that's not the fastest course. I mean, that's the fastest course she's run.
And that she will be in better shape.
Yeah.
As we go forward.
It's just everything we thought to be true about the sport turned out to be shattered the moment she started running.
But also, it's the Lauren week. She is the best. If we had a top 20 list of all time Hyrox athletes, she would be at the top. So if anyone's going to be able to turn this upside down like that, it should be her. So it was a surprise to me for sure to see her in that type of fitness, but also really not that big of a surprise.
Yeah. But who did we all predict?
Meg, the kid over there, did Michaela.
Meg and Michaela.
Yeah. And they did great.
Yeah.
And Lauren toyed with them.
The thing I was asking myself when I was watching her do that, and then seeing her see it through, like you see she had a minute, some gap halfway through the race, and you're like, okay, well, when's the blow up happening, or when is that gap going to close? And it never did. And when you see that, then you go like, how do you beat her? How do you beat her? You go with her, overextend yourself. Well, obviously she can go out hard and hold it. Let's say it's a conservative race and Lauren holds back early. Well, clearly she's going to have such a surplus in the tank that she can pound home. Like when somebody wins that dominant, you have to rely on her having a bad day in order to have a chance, right? Like there's such a gap there. Like, what's your strategy going to be? That's how dominant of a performance it was. Like, what's your strategy going to be to poke holes in her fitness? I don't know where it happens.
Yeah, I think everyone was kind of expecting Meg Jacoby to take the throne after what we've seen. And I looked at the numbers after, despite her running that extra loop. So she lost about a minute 20 by running that extra lap right there. She still would have been about 45 seconds behind Lauren. That's how dominating Lauren was. And believe it or not, Lauren actually had a faster run split on 6 of the 7 runs in which they both ran the same distance. And she likely would have been a few seconds faster there as well. That's crazy.
And if like, an extra minute 20, a little bit extra fatigue in there.
For sure.
Yeah. It was still a 45-minute deficit. But the crazy thing is Lauren was a front runner and she was a ridiculous closer. 305 on the wall balls. Like if she's in this type of fitness right now, just give her the title. Like 305 on the wall balls. And I know Miriam Van Roor, she was 255. So she can be touched,
but that's the point, right?
It's
we saw the fastest wall balls
doing now.
We saw the fastest wall balls we've ever seen, and she only lost 10 seconds on that. Like that's outrageous. I think that Michaela has shown that she runs the Dylan Scott approach. Michaela cannot, just simply by her physique, she can't come out and hammer the first 3 stations. She did a great pull, but she can't do both back to back currently, which leaves Meg as the only person who has the type of power and endurance available to her to try to match Lauren from the start. I think Meg could take a chance if they reran that race and said, I'm just going to run on you. And I'm going to go side by side, because the only way you beat Lauren is if she cracks. But you're not knowing if she's cracking unless you're near her. So I think Meg's the only one set up on paper to be able to go head to head with her. And someone's going to have to go head to head with her to ensure that a crack shows.
But what about those first couple of stations? Wasn't there a big gap by Lauren time discrepancy wise?
Yes. Yeah, she's gonna have to go.
She made. So she's gonna have. I mean, she's gonna have to like redline early on the stations.
Yeah, Lauren was about 15 seconds faster on the sleds combined versus Michaela and Meg. So they're all running the same pace. She already created a separation by then.
That first K, Lauren weaponizes.
It was like a 400 or something stupid. Another thing with these courses, how are they going to change the run distances like that? Now all of a sudden it's like 400 meters for the first one, and the rest are what, like 1,200?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you run an extra lap? You hear about
Rich,
that
I heard you
time
in the
to
broadcast.
time.
You're like, wait, okay.
What do you got going there, Rich?
Yeah, Rich, you were talking about like,
no.
Yeah,
Thing got a decel in it.
Yeah, but Rich was mentioning, he's like, wait, now I need to do math to figure out like how much extra distance for these remaining 7 runs. Now it's not 1,000 meters; it's like 1,200 or something like that. And just as an athlete, that's so frustrating because you're trying, what 1K split. It's like, okay, I'm supposed, if I'm at 4 flat, I'm going to be running 20-minute 5K. Like, it's nice and easy, but when you have like 1,160 meter laps for 7 of it, you can't. That's very difficult to like know your pacing and everything at that point. What do you guys think? Do you think that would throw you off having that early run into it? Because everyone's still fresh and you're not fatigued from an opening 1,000-meter run at most, even though it was only 400 meters heading into the ski erg. But I feel like it changes things so much when you have to do that little bit of extra running with the rest of the zones later on.
Yeah, it's a different, right? Especially for a race predicated around repeatability and time. It's a very different demand. And anyone who's a good second half runner is getting significantly more time to use that skill. None of the other stations are changing. And so if you are a power athlete who relies on getting through the runs, you're punished. Running those extra 160 meters 7 times, that's significant. Whatever you gain on that first one only being 400 or 500 meters, you do not balance out. You get punished way more having to run more later, in my opinion.
Yeah, and all these athletes are very calculated athletes, right? Everybody understands how their body feels going into and out of stations. And this really messes with your own internal formula, doesn't it? I think that's a notable enough. That's another 30 seconds of running per time. That's notable. So I would have to imagine that messes just with your energy management, either under managing or over managing.
It's good if you're a strong runner.
Part of Hyrox is how like repeatable it is. Yeah. But you're practicing 1,000-meter repeats during training. Like that's obviously you'll go up and down a little bit and stuff during your training, but you're kind of dialed in on what 1,000 meters feels like. And to throw that off, it's just a completely different strategy. And yeah, even though it might only be an extra 20, 30 seconds of running, if you do that 7 more times throughout the race, it's a different demand.
My take on this is that Lauren's resurgence, Lauren's reemergence is bad news for Michaela. I think that if it's Meg and Michaela going at it, Meg's a calculated enough athlete that she will run appropriately and the door will stay open for Michaela to charge late, which Michaela shows she can do. With Lauren there, Michaela is not set up to do well. Lauren's kind of the athlete built the opposite of Michaela, and it's going to either force her outside her comfort zone or create too big of a gap. But Meg, I think, is the one that can bridge the gap. So I think Michaela had a better chance of beating Meg straight up than she does with Lauren in the race. And that she's about to get Linda Blair'd, I think, where she was really close and Lauren single-handedly took away her chance of winning.
Who is that?
Not an actress.
Yeah, Linda Meyer. Yeah, this
I
is like
keep
the
saying
third or
that,
fourth
Linda
time.
Blair.
Yeah, I think she was in The Exorcist.
Who
Why
is
do I
that?
keep saying Linda Blair?
I think Linda Blair was in The Exorcist.
Yeah, she's an actress. Was an actress.
Riddle me just entertain my conversation real quick about how do you miss a lap or how do you go an extra lap? It's very confusing. I understand the course layout didn't help that.
It's easy.
Is it that easy or does it truly take
it's more
max
common.
race brain?
It's
Well, you
more
hear
common
about
than
it from
you
time
think.
to time. No, it's not. I've heard it
Hunter's done
so many
it.
times.
Yeah.
Is it like are you being misdirected? You're not sure where you should enter or exit? Is it like where is the disconnect there for people when it happens?
I think it's like running 24 by 400.
You forget which lap
You
you're
get
on.
to 16, you're like, is this 14, 15? Is this 16 or 17?
Yeah,
It's
turns
just that
into that.
thing.
Yeah.
The exit and the entrance weren't in the same place either.
Right, which would be
Feels like-
confusing.
The half laps really mess with you because when you come out of a station hurting or on a mission, you're focused on your body and the run, and you come past and you know you've come past the finish, and neither sound right. You're like, I couldn't have done a lap and a half already, but there's no way I only did half a lap. It's in the middle of the run, you just go race dumb, like that. Your race brain kicks right in, and it's 3.5 laps is so many to count when you're smashed, even though it doesn't seem like it would be. But yeah, it's that interval workout thing where you lose focus on one half of a lap, and it's tough. And then you have to run one more because the penalty for not running it is so severe.
That makes sense to me. I could sense that course layout really impacts the probability of doing this or missing your extra lap or not. I would have to imagine. And this one seems a little complex.
Kirk, every time that I've done a Hyrox, they have like a display and you run over a timing mat and your chip lets the display know who's coming up, and you can look at it and in big like 3-4 inch font it'll say like Bauer blank laps left, and so you can kind of look at that. But sometimes you're like, oh, am I on my second one, or is that
it doesn't make it?
like,
yeah, it's confusable for sure,
and it doesn't always register.
Yeah.
So she's not a big dummy head for doing this. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting.
She was by herself too, and Lauren had a gap at that point, and Meg was in second by herself essentially. So she was leading that chase pack, and Lauren had already come in, and then she came in like 9th or 7th, I think she came into.
Okay. Race. And at what point do you realize that this has happened?
Sometimes
when you don't. That's what I'm wondering. Did she
even
realize
when she saw she was
everybody in front of her?
Yeah.
Callie and I, for example, in our doubles on our last run, we're coming around, and on our second and our third, we're having the conversation: do we turn in now or not? Because there was you had to run an extra 3/4 of a lap on that one, but at that point, it's really hard to say, did I get that extra 3 on the first out, or is it an add-on at the end? And we were about to go, and we said, let's just take an extra lap. We think it's about 50 seconds for a lap here. So a 50-second penalty. We think we have a 90-second lead, but it's a 5-minute penletty if we miss it. Let's just do it.
Extra. And some people did come in, right?
Yeah, and some people did.
Some people
did. They got directed out. And
right.
So in the moment, she might have known in the moment, I might be doing an extra, but I can't afford a 5-minute penalty.
Right.
But I can make up a minute. Or maybe she didn't find out till just like her burpees. She's on it and someone says, hey, I got bad news.
I think that's what happened. I think she was like, yeah, fuck.
So speaking to that, I mean, I said who could break Lauren or who could catch Lauren and yada, yada. Where do you pick holes in it? But I suppose the moral diffusing of knowing that you just took yourself out of the race, how that impacts things moving forward, the extra running, as you had mentioned, that leaves some daylight right there, doesn't it? For me, it sure would. I can barely follow course tape on a Spartan race course, so I guess counting laps would be.
She closed really well, and then her last run, she imploded.
Yeah,
her last run was slow, if I remember correctly, on her splits. Double check me on that, Rich.
Meg Jacoby?
Yeah.
No, she had the third fastest. She was only behind Lauren.
Her last run was her slowest run, which it typically is
444 versus 447. Yeah.
Well, what were her 3 previous?
It was probably 10 seconds for everyone else. They were in the 430s throughout the race.
433.
Yeah. So I guess my point is, implode is the wrong word, but if she gave up a minute 20 and she gave up another 10 seconds on that run, now you're up to a minute 30. Now you say, okay, I was more fatigued and I had to put out extra. Let's call it a minute 45. Suddenly losing by that amount is really whittled down to like what we said, it was 45 seconds, just counting the penalty. Now let's drop it to 35 for that last lap because I blew myself up trying to get there. And now let's do it another 10, 15 seconds based off of just fatigue and that little bit when they first told me, and I checked out for a bit on the row because she didn't have a great row. And suddenly you're looking at a 15 or 20 second race in your mind if you're Meg. 15 or 20 seconds is nothing, especially saying I spotted her 15 seconds on the sleds. Suddenly you think I'm the same athlete as you. You had a more aggressive Yeah. So I think in her mind, she leaves thinking I can still beat.
You're finishing with like 85 wall balls.
Coming back that way that she did too, closing that strong and still finishing on the podium is pretty remarkable.
And what was her row? If you guys have that up, I thought she was like
424 versus 424 net. Which includes strapping in, getting off, running into the air. So she was probably like 205 pace if I remember.
Lauren was 414.
Okay, so she gave another 10 seconds there, and I think Meg's a strong rower.
Definitely, and like just the competitive piece. If she's next to her, like that's another part as well. If you can read off of your
and I think that was the station, right?
It was burpee broad jumps. It was the same spot as in New York.
Right. It was the next station after. So she did it and then came in and had to deal with it on the row. So 45-second gap, take off 10 for the last run, 35, take off 10 for the row, it's 25, and we still haven't touched fatigue. Again, I know I'm getting redundant here, but Meg is poised to be the one to go into there with some confidence.
You know whose stock I'm buying after this race? I'm buying some Alondra stock after this race. Mm-hmm. Dude, she ran her own version of Lauren's race, in my opinion. She was aggressive for her. She stuck her nose in there. She ran with power, and she went for it. Like she went for it. And we haven't seen. Have we seen that sort of racing out of her?
That's how she races. She was winning the world championships.
Oh, she was.
She took it out. She was winning after Ski Erg. She was like in that mix and kind of faded to fourth the same way. I wouldn't say she faded to fourth here. But like just the circumstances around the stations and like the running, her running's only going to get better. But right now, like that's definitely a weak point that she has compared to everyone else in that like top 4 to 5.
Well, I watched her at DECA Worlds, and then I watched her here. And was she noteworthy at DECA? Yes, but this caught my attention much more significantly the way she raced this than, and she had great performances at DECA, but this felt different to me.
She's nasty. Yeah. She's only going to get better too. She's aggressive. She's confident. She's not scared of anybody. So like if her running gets better, and like I think I said on the broadcast, like she probably has the worst wall ball form, and her wall balls are like 330. But compared to like the top 3 or 4, we're all unbroken. Like what do you do? Just her movement piece in that is what added like the 20 seconds or whatever where she needed to be.
What do we make of further down the list? Like we had expectations for athletes.
Did you catch that Miriam Van Roer? That was such a bummer. Like she finished her sandbag lunges, dropped the sandbag, flat tire on her shoe, had to untie her shoe, and she tried to like slip it back on, wasn't working. She lost probably 20 seconds.
And she had just
it was 21 seconds.
Meg.
21 you counted?
Yeah, I remember looking at the split.
Nice. I was close. That's a lot. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then at the way that she was able to
close. It felt so much longer though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what did she miss third place by?
Yeah. And you guys were talking about would you have gone barefoot? I think that was it.
What'd she miss third place by?
She finished 1:3:44 versus 1:03:42 for Alondra. So 100% would have been up there, and then missed the podium by 32 seconds by Meg, who also had an issue. So it's kind of like,
yeah, and Meg like a longer issue for sure, and more energy output. And Meg went unbroken too on her wall ball.
So she dropped the sandbag on her own heel, which gave her a flat tire.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
Kent knew it right away. We're commenting. We're like, what's going on here? He's like, I know exactly what happened. He said, I've done that in training. I dropped the sandbag off my back and it clips your heel. And every once in a while, it takes your shoe right off.
Wild.
I don't believe that Kent made a good point on the broadcast throughout the entire time.
Would you have run barefoot like he was suggesting? I don't know about that.
Oh, can finish that off because I have a tangent here.
I would thought about this, and I think I run with one shoe for a little bit, just pick it up and run and see how that goes. And then if I make it the full 1,000, take both shoes off for wall balls. Just get rid of it.
I'm running with it while I untie it. And then I slam it on. Not. No loops, just not go. I think that's
because you think you're going to be able to slip it right back on. So your first instinct is to go right for it and slip it on. Right. And then you're already down there.
In retrospect.
Oh.
On the broadcast, I said I would have done the same thing. I would have tried to slam my foot in there, and then I would put my finger in there and try it. And eventually, I would have untied it. It would have been a shoehorn. I had it happen in a Spartan.
Carry a shoehorn.
I had a shoe come untied twice, and one time the heel come off in mud, and I did the same thing. I just gave up 45 seconds messing around on the ground. It's frustrating. But my takeaway from watching this race is this: the men that I know in this sport are thinking about every piece of their training, and they're really dialing it in. And the women that I know in this sport are piecemealing it together through multiple modalities. They're hitting CrossFit. They're doing big run volume. They're doing a lot of different things. And I think they're doing more volume than the men. And a lot of the men are doing more specific Hyrox work. And I think we're seeing that these massive engined females are better closers than a lot of the men right now. And they're handling issues when they arise better. Now, I think there's going to be some pushback, and it's a blanket statement, so it's going to have holes in it. But you look at the top women, and they love volume. Meg loves to work. If Lauren had her way, she would just run 80-mile weeks. She doesn't even love Hyrox stuff that much. So she's doing 70-mile weeks on top of Hyrox stuff. They're doing more work than the men outside of Dylan Scott. They're just doing a little bit less specificity. So that's one of my takeaways watching this. They can stay power all day.
I actually did a little bit of this on the Reinforced Running podcast. I won't step on it too much, but I think it's more of a strength thing. I think the top 5 women are probably the strongest raw strength athletes.
Okay.
And of course, they're doing a lot of volume with that. But I think the pure strength that the women have at the top is making a big difference in terms of the amount of volume that they can then handle. Mm-hmm. But if we just did like straight up a powerlifting meet, I think the results might be, let me see again.
No, you're right on that.
Yeah. So I think the strength part is what's layering their base to then be able to put in this crazy amount of volume to make the strength endurance count. On the men's side, I think the strength demands, or I think the strength numbers are more even across, the 30 to 50 guys. And then it becomes more of a muscle endurance equation for everybody.
Because if you look at the lunges and the wall balls,
top 7
women are better.
They are better.
We've had one man that I know of go unbroken.
Top 7 women. Yeah. Top 7 women, all of them were 4 flat or under on the wall balls. For the men, winner 349, second 356, third 451, fourth 430. Like,
well, those guys also
they're mid plus faster. It's crazy.
Well, we had what, 3 or 4 go unbroken in one race? Has anyone other than Isaiah gone unbroken?
Yeah.
Maybe Hunter has at a point, but I don't think so.
I don't think he did. And Isaiah did it on the first U.S. race ever, on his first attempt. And no one's gotten better than that since.
Yeah.
This isn't a question of is the ratio appropriate weight-wise from men to women? Like we're all happy with the weights that the women are using. Like in Spartan racing, the men's tire was exponentially more ridiculous than the women's. It wasn't an even cut. We don't hear this conversation come up very often in Hyrox. That's not a factor here with these results, or is it?
This seems to be a standard that's accepted.
Yeah, 70% is usually the ratio that they use in CrossFit for the men versus women. Is that about right? I'm just thinking off the top of my head, that seems about right. And 14 versus 20 is 70%. That's kind of what you're stuck with.
66 to 70 is what you usually see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just be the athletes are a little bit more impressive on the women's side. The Rocks Life did an interesting article. Jack, did you catch this? Where they sent out a survey to the Elite 15, didn't get one, but it was asking for their like average numbers on everything. The men's running and lifting numbers, unimpressive. I think like the mean 3-rep max for the men was back squat was like 260 or something like that. It was low. I'm telling you.
No way.
Yeah, that's what
we can all do that.
I could definitely do that.
I don't think that surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like
this is interesting because I feel underpowered for Hyrox, and I am not a great squatter. But just in my rehab last year, I think I did 285 or 290 by 3.
Okay.
And I'm not someone who has a power advantage on any course.
I think it's a muscular endurance thing on the men's side.
100%.
Huh.
On the women's side,
and those are pretty big numbers, Bracken, for your size.
Yeah, give yourself
those
some
are big
credit.
numbers. Maybe
for 6 foot 185 at the time.
Yeah, that's those solid numbers.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Look at your quads. Makes sense.
I have no butt.
Where that butt at? But I don't think Meg's squat numbers. If Meg's 3 rep, I think her 1 rep's closer is like 280 something. So her 3 rep might be kind of close to where the men are. The men just aren't that strong.
Yeah, I guess the top women look like power athletes, and the guys really don't. What do you got going there?
It's not me. It's stupid apartment building. Moving next week won't happen again. But something's going on next year. I went and banged on the wall. Didn't work.
Again, a real Philly at you.
Yeah.
I don't
pots and pans. Go Birds.
I don't want to derail because we need to get to the men, obviously. And this is going to be an unpopular take, and I'm sorry to all of you who commentated. So I guess Jack's the only one I don't have to apologize in advance to. But I didn't really enjoy watching the race, guys.
What?
And I'm sorry.
How dare you?
It wasn't very exciting to me. It really wasn't. And I'm not saying it can't be, but how is there anything that could be improved? It was more from the camera work and following who's where. And I still kept waiting for the rower to be done or waiting. I was like, oh, I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. I was hitting fast forward on my YouTube because I was bored. And I'm sorry. I know it's going to hurt some feelings, but it's how I felt watching it. What can be done to make it more engaging from a viewer's standpoint? Now, I know I haven't done a race that will change things.
You're right.
Sure. But
because 2 things
am I alone
happen
here?
No, 2 things happen. Okay. First is that they do stationary stations and we don't know what they're doing. We talked about that one time on here already. Yeah. We need to be able to see a board with live what you're rowing, what you're skiing, how that's looking, and your progress. We need to see a little boat moving or something so that we can see what's happening. And the second is we need drone and above head footage. We need to be able to watch the runs happen rather than someone run up towards the camera and away, which, as we all know, trying to film our own workouts is the dumbest, worst view. Is you set your camera on the track and you run up to it and you can't tell what's happening until 10 meters away and then you're past it. So it's a budget thing. But they need to have metrics the whole time and splits for everyone. And they need to have drone footage or crane operated footage.
I loved watching the lunges and watching people surge and get past and move through space. And the burpee broad jumps were so telling, and watching like Magida suffer through those was like a very noteworthy part of the race for me. Like I was like, oh, I didn't fast forward through these times because I was engaged, but there were half the time in which I wasn't. Or the runs, you can't even tell who's flying by because it's such a quick.
It's slow. They're not very. The running doesn't look fast.
Running looks No, it looks very it looks like everybody's running 7-minute pace and shuffling, which I know isn't true.
They look fast.
Oh. Did you? I didn't.
Is there any answer to that, or is there just not? I guess because that's where it lost me.
No.
Yeah. Not lost me, but I disengaged. And the wall balls, which should be the most compelling part of the race, I'm fast forwarding just to get to like something happening, somebody coming off or on. Like it's not. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this, but I just wish there's got to be an angle in which can keep you more. I just don't know what that would be.
You need data on the screen throughout the race. Just you were sort of alluding to it, but if you don't know, like Rich, how many times was Dylan chiming in with, and 20 seconds ago we just got the splits on so and so, but she's not even in the picture anymore. Like if you don't have that live data, you can't really talk about it. I know that when I was helping with the Deca Strong in Atlantic City for the coverage with Dave, I was trying to go up to every single machine, and because
super helpful.
Boring watching people row or ski, but I was like, okay, he's doing 137 for the row and she's doing a 156 on the skier. Like that's the only way that you can make those longer static zones interesting, so that you can actually see it. And it's just hard to do that with so many people and a 100 feet long section of people on these different machines. It's just really difficult to make those 8 minutes of the race interesting, and that's a good chunk of the race.
At World Championships, they tried setting up a lane surrounding the run, and there was going to be someone on a bike biking and tracking the entire thing, or on a Segway. and the cameras ended up not functioning with service around the whole thing, so they didn't do it. But that would have been, we were really excited about that. Then you see all of it. But did you guys watch the arena games ever? They were happening in the off season. It's a triathlon thing. They do a swim in the pool, okay, and then on a spin bike, and then on a true form treadmill. And then round 2, they do it in reverse: run, bike, swim. But 2 of the 3 stations are stationary, but they have the metrics up. They have a little tracker showing how far they've gone, what their current pace is, and their cadence, and their projected finish time. And you have it for each person. And then they're showing them running on a treadmill, but they have all their metrics up there on this board. And so I was doing all these workouts, just watching someone do that, and it was stimulating. But we don't have those metrics yet. So what Kirk said, you have to have metrics in front of you if you're not moving.
Well, I don't know. And I hope we don't drag this conversation out, because we've had this coverage conversation ad nauseum about all sorts of events, but it just really stood out to me. Like, the commentary was good. I didn't listen to you, Rich. I'm sure it was excellent, but like, you guys were informative. You were always adding if there wasn't much to be engaged with visually. Like, the commentary wasn't a commentary issue. It was simply like what my eyes were taking in.
Mm-hmm. It was the best coverage they've had. Cameras were clear and all that, but budget takes it to the next level of visuals constantly, because you can't track people sitting on a ski erg unless you know what they're doing.
I think Hyrox is investing in that type of coverage. It'll be interesting to see if they will be able to pull the metrics. I don't know if they would be, but maybe the cameras can get in there a little bit closer. But I think there was professional crew on site for this previous race. And but people wanted to know what happened live. So they were like, Rich, do you want to cover it? I was like, totally. They're like, never mind. Bracken, Ryan Kent, you guys in? They're like, definitely going to ditch Rich on this one.
You have a lot of reasons to be bitter right now. You really do. They're stacking up.
Bitter.
Back at that COVID championship, when they ran on the assault runner.
Yeah.
They had that big screen in front, and they had heart rate on there. And was that it? Or did they have more?
That was awesome.
So and they don't need a big production crew. They need that screen centrally located with all of the machines being cast to that. So you can film the machine, and then you just have a camera on this board. Maybe the athletes can't even see it. It doesn't matter. They don't need to see it. The audience needs to see it. So you don't need to have one for every station, and you can't film all of them at once, but have one stationary screen. And it could even be in an adjacent room somewhere with a camera on it that just constantly shows it. When they did that, you're right, it was awesome. And it gives you such a visual representation of the work.
If it was anything like indoor track was in college, like one of the biggest allures to Hyrox is the energy of the space, the energy of the event, how it's so consuming in nature when you're in that building, and the people and the athletes. That essence was missed, I think, in this coverage a little bit. And I was hoping to see, and I think maybe the drone or just some understanding would have been really nice, is all I'm getting at.
It's the sound. They have to dull the arena sound to be able to hear us.
Right.
So I guess
what do you do there?
Yeah. Again, I'd rather watch it with great visuals and not hear a person talk.
Sure.
I still think you need to look at
some explanation though.
Yeah, you need to look at what CrossFit Games does, because they have a lot of high volume static movements, whether it's rowing for a long time as a buy-in, skier, just a bunch of things where you're not moving, and they still have a ticker at the top that'll show minus 100 meters or whatever, and those battles are intriguing, because you're seeing the people do the stuff, and then your eyes glance up for 2 seconds to check the scoreboard, and then you look down, they're showing someone else, and you're like, oh my god, that person moved up 3 spaces, they must have put in like a little bit of a search. And you can make it captivating. You just need a live leaderboard to actually show split data on that. Or even, I know that they have the counter for the wall balls. Did you actually know how many wall balls Lauren was doing unless you were counting it? Or do they have a display where it's like, a ticker, every single one of them, like you're clicking every one, and then it would have a live counter for you. Something like that would make it a lot more intriguing just to watch. And CrossFit, they do a really good job during the games.
And just like the volume of the event, like, Kirk, did you enjoy watching DecaFit? Take me out of it. Would you think you would have been a better? I was
much more engaged with DecaFit than I was with this race as a viewer. Yep.
Because of the duration.
Because of the quick. At least I wasn't. Yeah, it was just quicker transitions from one thing to the next, so it was more engaging. And I can tolerate the rower for X amount of time comparatively. So it was, yeah, I would say that would be.
Decafit, not dumb.
No, it was more engaging. And I thought the coverage was better.
Yeah,
Just
this
the way
is
it
a
was
really
followed.
good Kirk's. Yeah. Yeah, Kirk, you're making good points though, because you've never done a Hyrox. You've never been in the arena, so you don't have that bias over like what it's like. We all three of us, or the rest of us, we know what it's like going in there. It's pretty electric when like everyone starts
I can
cheering
tell.
at certain stations and stuff. But if that wasn't captured, that yeah, it's obvious on the live broadcast. And if you're someone who's already sort of in this space, but you've never run this, and you wouldn't even want to watch this, then that's just showing the format's got to change.
I wanted to watch it. I just wish
the
it could have
broadcast
been
format, not the
right. In hindsight, I just fast forwarded through the boring part, so I like watched half of it. That was fine.
I really, really wish that there was a way to constantly see those reps, but I think one of the ways that it's most impactful to the race is the wall balls, because it makes for the worst commentating situation possible when the end is all of a sudden 2 seconds away. You can't really hear them counting. You can't hear the crowd like crescendo. You just see a wall ball. Suddenly the wall ball is on the ground, and you have 2 seconds before they cross the line to build in. And there's no build up in the announcing and in the event. And simply a ticker would be great above every wall ball station. Even just a tablet being held facing the crowd. Just click on your phone, and it just shows up on there what number you're on, because
they've tried that.
They tried a weird system
where they had a ticker in hand that affected the board underneath the wall ball target.
Yeah. And it never
wouldn't work. Yeah. Just
but
like
every single person in their gym and in their box has an app that just counts reps and displays really well on tablets or phones. It'd be really easy to do. So but it's just really hard when the end happens with no announcing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or the boards where you're going to say,
or you
Jack,
could have one of those like calendar pages. Yeah.
Or on every 10 reps.
Just 10, 20, 30. Yeah.
Which they used to do.
Maybe they will do that in a championship race. I'm not sure.
They used to hold up by tens.
Ooh, this was a championship race.
Yeah. Jack, what was your take on Ida? And apparently you're right on the Steens, on the way the A is pronounced. But I think Thomas Peterson, he's a Dane as well as maybe he's a Patreon member. If not, he should be.
He's won a contest, I thought.
Without the D. Steens Gore.
Steens Gore.
Steens
like,
Gore.
Yeah. It's very abbreviated.
Yeah.
I re-listened to the pronunciation. Yeah. Go ahead.
On Google.
No. This guy, Martin Beckstrom from Sweden, he basically before OCR World sent me a voice message of like 10 names where I'm like, help me out. So I re-listened to that.
I had to Google Maastricht.
Burned it in your brain. How do you say it?
Yeah.
Maastricht.
It's
really like Maastricht, but Maastricht, not Maastricht.
No, it's Maastricht, bro.
Which I thought it was, but Maastricht.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ida just didn't have a good race, admittedly so. Like, her total run time was 32:24, which is over. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. But
she had a good run.
She had like a pretty solid
37
run time.
minutes.
I was looking at the men's one. Yeah. She had a pretty solid run time last time, but this one was just this one was several minutes slower.
Well, then it was wrong live.
You could see like
day of it was fast. I even talked about it on the stream, how fast it was.
Awesome. It wasn't.
Yeah, because it's reporting like 457, 449, 511. That just doesn't make for her. But that's what the splits are showing.
Seems like an outlier.
Yeah, I mean,
like I wouldn't imagine she would go from
best
65
athletes,
to
Yeah. It was more dramatic than Tiago with the high seed. She wasn't the number 1 seed, but she had a solid seed heading in there, and wasn't too far back from Michaela, who clearly delivered as well. But yeah, I think it was
her time was about Michaela's time was about 2 minutes slower. So it was there. That was probably fast course, but not like a 7 minute. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the top 5, top 6 are the best Hyrox athletes, and that's just kind of how it shook out. And Ida just didn't she's not on that level. I guess that's what it revealed at the moment for Hyrox.
Well, didn't the whole field get strung out? A lot of them got strung out a little faster than they wanted. And isn't Hyrox in the beginning, and a Hyrox is the case, just like a big mountain race. When you crack, you crack.
Mhm.
And what you don't know how big that hole is where you're bleeding out of, and it's gushing, right? And so when it happens, you don't really know what somebody's capable of when they implode like that. It's just like when it happens in the mountains. It's like minutes are lost, not seconds, right? And it's a case of that in this style of race.
I believe fast sleds set people up for doom in big crowds.
Yeah.
If you're the only one at a venue where there's only 2 guys or girls that are good, and I'm not good, but high level, you work the sled at your rate and it's fast. When you get into this crowd and everyone's fast, you just work harder and you get off quicker and you're still just as trash, but for a different reason. I think we saw that with Dave. I think we saw that with Ida. People that came in a little behind and saw how fast the sleds were working, they had to get to work, and it didn't matter that it was lighter. You still burned yourself out.
That's where an American athlete may be in a bit of a disadvantage going to Europe, is that the way that they can train their sleds, the way versus the way we train here, they can train it to push at 25 meters unbroken. That's going to blow your legs up. So they have like a bit more resilience in terms of the muscular endurance piece. Over here, you have to be actually strong to move that sled. So you can't push it for very, very long. So in training, that's kind of how things are directed here. So like you said, in Magita's sense, like that's kind of, he mentioned something like that when blew himself up on the sleds, did it in 2 minutes, but just wasn't prepped for that type of feeling.
I think
for
Kent
that
would
be what, soft?
I think he'd be good over there using that torque tank.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing about the tank is once you get it moving, and that's how he does it. He just moves it and blows his legs out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you and Magita put 900, 1,000 pounds on it and move it 5 steps and rest, 5 steps and rest. He's doing the endless walking to burn his legs out approach. So I think he would translate well to an overseas course.
And I think that's what a lot of the US-based athletes are going to have to do for
Worlds.
For Worlds.
Yeah.
Yes. Or if I'm going to go to Barcelona, which I'm still thinking. I'm on team bracket on this one. I think you other guys.
Rich, you're going to go
USA.
there and you're going to see fast times ripping over here in the US, and you're going to kick yourself in the back of the head for making a dumb decision. That's going to be the worst case scenario.
Kirk's going to go 58 in Houston.
If I was to kick myself in the back of the head, would it go forward to the back or go like hip
between your own legs?
Excellent front mobility.
Face plant, scorpion head to the back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways we can make this happen, but all involve breaking your spine.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Rich, I do have a question for you. How would you have done?
I think it would have been around Tobias, maybe a little bit behind Tobias. I think it would have been like 6th or so.
So you think that
realistically
58 and change is where you're at, which is why you think you'd probably run that.
Yeah, is that where he finished in?
I thought he was.
I don't think so.
Oh. Did you catch the shade Donahue threw online?
No.
Read it.
First comment
on
the post about Hyrox European Championships. Amazing performances by the American women. Too bad none of the top American men competed.
Is that shade? Who's that? Is it
at Magita?
At Magita. Oh,
the whole Donahue, Magita, Spartan commentators. Oh, it spilled over into Hyrox.
Don't they have each other's back? I thought they had each other's back.
Apparently not.
Maybe that was
is it a frenemy situation?
That back has a knife handle in it right now. None of the top American men competed. That either means none of them went, or one went and he didn't compete.
What was our takeaway on the men's side?
They're really good.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
They're legit.
The top 4 or 5 are very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
are very good.
I'm just surprised how the stature of the gentleman up front. Like, I don't know why, but I don't pick that body type. Like long, kind of gallopy, kind of from what I saw, and maybe it doesn't look like that in person, but I picture higher cadence, more Rich Ryan style, even Kemba. These were like kind of big dudes moving tall mass through space. And I know that's advantage on the ergs, and I know that it makes up somewhere else, but just watching how they moved through space, I didn't anticipate watching the winners move like they moved. That might be a weird takeaway, but that's what I noticed. I was like, you don't strike me as a guy who looks like he would win this event the way he's moving, but yet they continually gap the field.
Bracken, what do you think? What do you think Ronkovic's steps per minute count is on his run?
160.
it's like galloping.
Yeah.
I talked about it. I said that's the kind of thing that if you break down at all, you get really slow quick.
Yeah,
and he didn't.
He ran a great race, and he was outrunning Sandbach on a couple of those. They seem to kind of were playing cat and mouse a little bit on the runs. Yeah. But
it seems like on the women's side, you look at them, and I agree with you. I think Rich, you said this on the women. It looked like they were going so fast. Like the women looked like they were cruising. It was high turnover, knee drive, proper form, like run mechanics. And then you looked at the top men. I was like, that's a CrossFitter going for a run. Like that's how it just felt. So it was very big contrast. Maybe they look so slow because of their stride length and slow cadence. But
yeah, what's crazy, Jeff?
But you want to know what is crazy? Alex 31:36, Tim 31:35, Michael 31:37. So they're 2 seconds apart for the top three on their run, and none of them really look alike.
Yeah, I mean Tim's kind of loping too.
That's what I thought.
He looks like he would be a runner, but based off of his build, based off of the way that he runs, I don't think
he's a small CrossFitter, not a buff runner.
Kinda, yeah.
And yet you look at our running form. Like Ryan Kent doesn't have a prototypical stride. Hunter is a very up and down mechanical runner. Dylan lopes
for sure.
You're a vertical high cadence runner. We all have different forms over here as well.
My note probably added no value to the conversation, but it stuck out to me. Like I don't. That's not really a takeaway. It's just like, that's interesting.
No, I saw it on the broadcast also.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think Tobias looked good from the start. It seemed like he generally runs conservative, but even when he was running conservative, I was like, it just doesn't seem to. He didn't look the way that he typically looks.
He just truly might be a long hauler. Like we knew he was a long hauler. He got rocked by COVID. Rocked. Took him months to get back to training, but he might not be right. Like if he's just 5% worse cardiovascularly, that's what it looks like.
Maybe.
That's what being 5% off your game looks like at a championship. It looks like I'm fighting for 4th or 5th rather than being the champ.
And usually we would see him work his way into the front.
It's like Charles Barkley. Yeah.
Seamlessly.
Like Charles Barkley?
What about Charles Barkley?
Like in Space Jam? What do you mean?
Yeah.
In Space
Compared
Jam.
to Karl Malone?
Yeah. He lost his talent. No, he lost his talent. Remember?
The aliens took it from him?
Never mind. Someone will get it.
I would have gone with Sean Bradley then, since Tobias is the tallest in the field.
Muggsy Bogues. That's not him. Who would be the Muggsy Bogues?
Yeah.
Everyone's like the same. Everyone's like the same size. Everyone's like 5'11",
Vinish
6'1".
would probably be.
He's a little bit taller than you think.
Was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Space Jam?
No.
Not as a player.
Too bad.
Kirk has clearly never seen the movie.
I have, but it's been a couple.
The soundtrack was my first hip hop album that I owned.
Oh man, I could probably tell you the track list top to bottom. The Monstars anthem, I could sing every word.
Monstars anthem. I'd still walk out to that.
Definitely. It's not on Spotify for some reason. I don't know why.
I couldn't afford it.
I checked over and over. What was that comment Jack made to Kirk one time? That was a mega diss. Like, Rich and Bracken, you'll know about this basketball. Kirk, you're so stupid. You'll have no idea what this.
It was some football analogy, I think. But yeah.
I think it was.
I'm not that far removed. I'm just, you guys are more immersed than the common man is, right? If you average out the United States of America, you're on the deep end, and I'm right in the middle at standing like 5-6 feet of water.
Casual.
Depending on the sport.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 4 dudes on the men's side, and then it was Florian Gass. I was actually impressed with. He was qualified through on the Frankfurt course. He stuck his nose in it to beat Jeffrey Voisin, who are part of the Elite 15 last year. And then after Magida kind of drops into what we would expect, like
and David,
yeah, David too. Yeah, I would say David didn't perform to the expectations that we had set anyway.
Those time gaps were tight though. Like Magida runs 30 seconds faster, and instead of taking whatever 9th, he takes 6th, right? Like it was very tight.
We thought he should have run like a minute and a half faster though.
Yeah.
But it was tight. Point being, how many people ran 60 and change? Like 4?
Yeah, he's 47 seconds outside of 5th.
Yeah, I thought it was tight. Tighter than you see some races.
Dave's turning into a bit of a boomer bust Hyrox athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's capable of when he puts it together, he puts it together. And he seems to be the type that responds well to front running.
Mm-hmm.
if he gets that bone in his mouth, like he's running with it. But on the days he can't make his way up through the field, things go wrong. And maybe he would say that things went wrong, so I couldn't make my way up through the field. It almost doesn't matter at this point which one it is. It's like if you catch him on a good day, he's a world beater. And if you catch him on a bad day, he'll slide lower than most people will slide.
That's an issue I dealt with for.
I think David got caught up a little bit.
College for sure, and then after, like not winning, it was hard for me to deal with.
Yeah.
So
I'm a boomer bust athlete. I get it. I'm not trashing them. It's just an interesting that many of these people don't have the ceiling he has. And maybe that makes his lower races look lower, but he has the ceiling to run 58s, and that's rare.
Like looking at that Rocks Life article, I think I pulled it up real fast and I canceled it out again, but it was like 3 rep max squat was 265, was 330 for deadlift, and the mean 5K was like 1630. Megita's is above all those weight numbers by like a lot, and below that 5K number
by a lot.
Mod.
He has a good
deadlift.
330 for 3 rep. That's a little bit more, I guess, where I thought it would be. I still have to smack that. That's light.
He's the ultimate example of, like you said, he can output every one of those powers, but that muscular work rate endurance, the Dylan Scott thing, is probably Dave's lowest piece. Yeah. He's good at it, but he's better at the other components than he is that one piece.
When I step back and look at this race, like Alex and Michael, Tim, I guess, might be an exception, but I was trying to think, like, what did they knock out of the park and what didn't they? Meaning, it just felt like one perfect rate of work to me. It wasn't like, wow, this was his strength here. It was just like you took a workhorse who utilized his engine appropriately, didn't mismanage effort. And it was like, there wasn't one thing that stood out to me. I can't be like, oh yeah, well, obviously Alex got to the sleds and that's the only reason he won the race. Well, that wasn't true. I can't think of anything. It was just like, they're really good at managing their effort. They're really good at in and out, and they're really good at getting back to work. And not one thing stood out to me about any of those athletes other than what Tim charged late, I guess, in a sense, or Michael faded that hard. Either way. So it was just like more of like energy management, good execution, and it's just a workhorse. Like there wasn't one special talent any of these people had other than managing the race. That's how it appeared from my perspective.
Alex broke 24 on his total workout zones combined. That is so fast. Like if you add up the individual 8 pieces,
fast sleds.
But you're right. Like his row, including strapping in 346. So he probably did like a 145 pace, 146 pace for that's not fast. Like outstanding. His ski erg, I felt like the ski erg, they were all meant business right away, and the sleds, of course, were a little bit fast. It seemed like just based on other splits, but you had like 156 on the farmers carries, 309 on the lunges, 349 for the wall balls. Those are like right around what you'd expect someone to do if they're going to win a race, and 31-36 isn't that crazy for an 8K. So yeah, he just great pacing and just never fell apart.
It's energy management, understanding your body, how it responds to the workload, and then going out and executing. It's the ultimate jack of all trades when you look at all the modalities, and just seemed like that rose to the top. And now we didn't have good eyes on people in the middle of the field or further back, right? The focus is on the front. So maybe you could say that about anybody, right? But it just stood out to me more than the women's race in this case.
I'm impressed with the machines in this sport right now. The skis have gotten really strong. People who used to be kind of freak on the skis, the outliers, are what most people are at the top end are doing now, and that's impressive.
And that's where there's opportunity. When we look at what human athletes are capable of, it's way more than what we're doing on the ski and on the row and on the run. Right. So I think that should be a major focus for anybody going into these sports, like get awesome at the machines and get really good at running, deal with all the other stuff, because it can't get that much faster.
It just can't blow you up. You have to be bulletproof on them, but yeah, right. You're not going to gain 30 seconds on one, but
no,
a good skier can ski at 125, 130 comfortably.
For sure.
And we're not.
that ain't comfortable. That ain't comfortable for most. So there's 3 dudes, Alex,
disgusting.
Tim, and Sandbach.
Michael.
They're coming over.
Yep.
Jonathan Wynn's coming over, finishing 9th. And then maybe Patrick Grew. I'm not sure. Maybe Elte Hoopkis, who finished last. He's going to come over because I don't know why. Just to run another race, can just do that at home. Stay home.
I'll tell you what, though, to jump in real quick is, it put a lot of pressure on Magida unknowingly, saying, I feel like North Americans' credibility is on his back. And we didn't necessarily see the performance we wanted out of him. He did show, early on, he inserted himself in the race. But the fact that the top 3 from the Euro champs are coming over now, and at least we got a guy like Kent and Dylan, and unfortunately not you, Rich, but to get a crack now that we saw that result compared to, let's say, our one North American athlete, it's just really good. I'm glad the top 3 are coming over. It's going to make the show really well worth watching.
And being able to see Meg and Lauren
correct
again is actually kind of cool.
Yep.
Right. So from a spectator perspective, it's actually not terrible.
Well, it's a good series of open championships.
Yes. Or invitationals.
It's a great series of races. It's like, I don't know.
Diamond League.
Yeah. Which is what we all want.
Which is what we want. Which is what it should be. But
look at us, just hung up on labels.
The world.
They really should have just labeled it different and not given they need the automatic qualifiers. So they need to have some sort of championship to get you into it, but it can't be at the same time. Just whatever.
A heat, B heat.
Yeah. Last
Easy
episode,
peasy.
we talked about different solutions for 4 hours.
Yeah.
A long time.
Hyrox HQ just needs to listen to this episode and last one.
I think they listened to the last one, and now they're mad at me, and now I'm out. I'm way out.
Right,
though, we think we're so good at this, right, that we made a podcast for it. But after we created our ideal race, everybody was just hating on our ideas.
That's
it was
not my
like,
ideal
that's
race.
dumb. This is dumb. Barbells don't belong. Too much time on. It's like, what do we know? Clearly nothing.
I'm going to do that workout, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is. Anyways, just saying, what do we know?
So I just have one short question. It should be short. If you were to open this up a second wave, would you prefer to have A heat and B heat, or snake seed both and you race for time and it decides it? What's better for the sport?
I think you just need A heat, B heat.
A, B.
Can you score out of the B heat, or is it a different competition?
Can you score out of it? Can you get
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So B heat has to go first.
B heat has to go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. I concur.
One time, I think we went second at B heat. It was my freshman year at A10s, and they ran terribly slow in the first 1500. I looked at the guys on the line. I was like, let's go get it. It was like really slow, like 3:59 or something like that for 1500. And I was like, let's do it. And I was like, oh, I'll take it out. And I took it out and then died really bad and didn't score. So it didn't matter. But it's an example.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Same thing happened to me at Nationals my freshman year. Same deal. And I won the mile on an invitational down in Oshkosh in the slow heat. It felt even better that way.
Nice.
I ran all alone.
Do you think?
Yeah, it happened. Yeah.
All right. So I think we should wrap this up. Kirk, what's your hunger level?
I was just going to say, let's roll, fellas.
I'm hungry. And you know what I'm doing right now? Go downstairs in the basement, and I'm going to work on that squat and deadlift average. Raise it up for the team.
Get that up. What's your 3-rep deadlift? Because your deadlift is behind your squat, I think. Your squat's a little bit better than your dead, right?
I've never gone after it. I did 3-rep. All of mine, squatting is unsupported. I don't have a spotter ever, so it's always kind of like,
just dump that shit. Dump it in the basement.
I'll break stuff if I
put
dump
some
it.
Put some holes in the
Anyway,
floor.
I was 285 or 290 for squat. I was 245 for bench at the time. I couldn't do that right now.
For one or for three?
3. And that is that's my strongest lift. And I was, I don't know, because I was hernia at the time when I was testing. So I was probably like 255 for deadlift.
Right.
That was belted up, hernia strapped. And then pull-ups was, I want to say, 65 or 70 pounds. Full extension, wide grip. wide grip pull up.
Okay.
That's
better.
another weak one for me.
Long
Neutral
arms.
grip or chin up, I feel decent at, but pull up wide grip is weak for me.
What do we got on the running public this week?
We got the power of prescribed recovery, which doesn't
Like
mean
drugs?
resting. It means no.
Oh,
Prescribed recovery
prescribed.
effort or pacing on quality sessions. So instead of just doing your 12x400 and resting, let's turn the script and let's actually have an active, purposeful recovery. Floats, as you could call it. So we talk about float style workouts and why they're important, why they're so beneficial.
Did you have an interview last week?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Diane Miller, one of my athletes. We discussed being in the back of the pack. It was a good conversation. We got DJ Fox coming up this Friday.
Nice.
Yep.
People's
what about you?
champ.
I was just doing short form training stuff. Just talked about observations from Hyrox, talked about what I see on the strength side for the women, and talking about some different workouts to simulate the sled a little bit more. I think the skier directly into a sled is like a really good way to simulate the feeling of a race as opposed to like run in between the two. just some thoughts. Yeah, I'm going short. You guys take care of the interviews. MBD takes care of the interviews. I'm not scheduling people anymore. I'm just talking on the microphone.
People like that.
We broke you.
20.
Yeah, high five.
3 years in. Take the freaking stupid interviews. I don't want to do them anymore.
What episode are you on?
See, that's what I could do. I could make a charge fee. I could do 3 a week, 20 minutes, 20-minute episodes. I could just start banging at them. 267. Are you over? Did you guys make it?
304?
Wow.
305?
What happens at 300?
Yeah.
Is anything?
Brian
We
Kent.
just make a gross post about each other on social media and then move on.
I didn't notice
I
that.
love
Nothing-
you too.
There's nothing like changes.
No, because we've been doing this for a long time. We do 1,000. We'll celebrate, Rich.
Then
Well, 1 million downloads. We're gonna do something big for that.
Yeah,
then
we're almost
it
there.
doubles exponentially. Gets better
967.
at 1 million. All right. So that's what we got going on.
Yeah.
Again, this was an accidental.
I'm going to be on
live episodes.
Um,
Jack, you got something to plug?
yeah, I'm going to be on Matt's podcasts. Yeah, no, Matt and I are going to be discussing with the Book of OCR. Bracken, I know that you had an episode with him, or have one
I
planned,
gave in and did one.
But Matt and I
You
are going to
didn't
be talking
fight.
about.
You didn't fight?
Yeah, Matt and I
You
are going
won't
to be
believe what
talking
happens at minute
competitive
47.
side of. Yeah, we're talking the competitive side of Tough Mudder. So TMX, their tougher series, maybe some WTM. So we'll be talking.
Make sure to
about that
mention the
sometime in the next week or two.
2018 Midwest champ of Tougher Mudder.
You.
That's me.
Was it
was there.
Michael Daly? Was he with you?
Yeah, it gave me a hell of a run. That was leaderboard days. I think I was on leaderboard then.
Oh yeah.
No one
Yeah,
probably
we were
knows
bringing
who
home
he is.
hardware.
He was
Yeah,
good.
but there was some.
We should run it back.
bring back leaderboard.
Yeah, I was cleaning out under our bed the other day. We have drawers under the bed, and the one behind opens into the nightstand, so you can't get it open. So it's just like all the stuff you don't need ever is in there. And I moved the nightstand and I looked through it and I found an old leaderboard mud gear racing top.
Throw it on.
I didn't know what to do with it. Throw it on,
Burn
give
it.
it away, do a ceremonial, like put it in a little paper boat and shoot an arrow into it. I don't know.
That'd be nice. Are you going to go to Hyrox Chicago, Bracken?
Yeah.
Are you going to compete in any capacity?
I'm just going to be Rich Ryan. I'm going to be drunk and
Talking
angry.
shit? Talking
Yeah.
shit? I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'll be like, what are you doing here?
I'm bringing a bullhorn.
Oh, man. It's going to be good. I'm definitely counting Meg's laps.
No rep.
That's a
No
rep.
rep.
Absolute no rep.
All
Go
day
home.
long.
What are you doing? Kirk, are you in? We might have to do this thing.
I think we're gonna have to have a real conversation about it.
We really have to entertain it. You don't seem that enthused. You're like 75% enthused.
Well, it's mostly because I got travel coming up, and so like make an extra weekend trip when I'm maybe racing some other things before I leave. I'm not gonna say. Then so we'll see.
Fine. Just double.
MBD's going to be there. You can run
Honestly,
together.
my heart
We
hurts
are
a
gonna
little
run together.
because you said if we race together, you don't give a shit about it.
What?
I
We're
was
still,
like,
going for
why?
the, we're still going for the win. How dare
You're
you?
like, I don't care even a little, and I was like, well, then I don't really care.
well,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think-
bring it.
If you can convince me that you actually give a shit about how we do,
Oh, we're
Then-
going. I'm not going there to get second.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right, let's talk.
You better go in. If you do this, Kirk, like every third day from here on out, just trash yourself Hyrox style.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I
go
understand
crash
it.
course.
It'd be
Hammer
a-
that assault bike. Do some intervals
Practice
on and off of that thing.
lying on the floor like Bracken. You know.
Yeah, I got to practice the dramatic finish for sure. Yeah.
You don't practice lying on the ground. You either handle the Delta variant like a boss or you don't.
Well, I didn't.
Optimal recovery post row horizontal.
I wish they had done my zone that day and people could have watched me on that screen.
Like
The whole race goes out. First 1,000 meters, like 155, 155, 155. Get off the skier. Everyone's at like 175. I'm hitting 192. My oxygen rate is like at 92. 84.
All right, we dragged on
Flat
long
line
enough. This was
EKG.
an accidental live episode. Thanks for everybody. I didn't check the comments one bit because I was engaged with the homies. But we'll be back next week talking about stuff. See you, fellas.
See ya.
All right.